It looks so weird with a beard. Yeah, no problem. If you want, just here. Anybody want to make fun of me or something in the meantime? What do you guys think of this beard that I have right now while I've been in hiding? Good, no good? Should I get rid of it? I think I'm gonna get rid of it soon. I don't know if I feel like a beard guy, you know? I do like the idea that now that beards are like not in style, that I decided to grow one because I just like to go against anything trendy, sort of. Adam, if it doesn't work this time, I'll bring you in. Big Greg, I got my water right here for you. Yeah. That impression was fantastic. You know, I'm just waiting on Justin to come back in or whatever. I messaged him. I don't know if he got it yet or whatever. How do you join? Well, let me just see. I'll definitely bring you in. Let me just, like the mullet. Well, I ponytailed it tonight. It's hard to see. Adam, let me just see what goes on with this, and if not, you'll be the next person I bring on. We've been talking about doing this for a while, so it's kind of at that point where it's like, let's just finally have this live chat and talk about it. I'm just trying to get more people to talk live in general, because all this, like messaging, text message back and forth for on Facebook, no one's going to change their mind that way. That water bottle's going to suffer, you better believe it, I got to get my water filter fixed, unfortunately. It broke. Anyway, fuck was I saying? But yeah. So in the meantime, while we're waiting, beard or no beard, what do you think? Dave Martell, what's up, dude? Dave, if this doesn't work out, if you want a live chat, we could do that too. You can talk about whatever you want, mysticism, borders, whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. I want to talk to you anyway. Where is this guy? Yo, Greg, just to play up your impression, can you message Justin Ryan Rhine for me and tell him I'm ready? I did, man. Beard. Where is he? But I just wanted to bob it. It's a new beard, I'm not really a big beard guy personally, but we'll see. Is that a mustache or a twat tickler? I wish it was. I haven't got laid in a while. It's about that time. I will debate the shit out of this debate. You're on the same side as me. Fuck. Where is he? John Bellafiore. What's up, man? Where's the pizza? I had some last night, actually. I kind of let myself go ever since Mexico because so I ate like fucking mad pepperoni, Sicilian pizza is what I meant. Which I normally don't eat, but it was good. 15 minutes. Yeah, well, I'm supposed to be debating this other dude, but like definitely feel free to jump back in or whatever and we'll talk. Is he coming? Justin, where are you, bro? Oh. So in the meantime, what else is up, people? How are you? I got like 20 people watching. How's everything? What's up, Brian? How are you? Oh man, wears a beard like a lady, has long hair. That's one way to look at it. Where's Justin? Come on, guy. Where is he? You just had some frozen. Fuck that frozen pizza shit. That shit sucks. I don't eat frozen. I don't eat any pizza that's not New York pizza. I don't care if it's Domino's or what. If it's not New York pizza, I'm not interested. Period. That's it. It's a world of difference. Any other pizza I've had anywhere else was terrible. It's like a joke. Oh, here we go. All right. Let's hope it works this time. Thoughts on nationalism? I think nationalism is just a form of mind control. It's just the way, like, same. There he is. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I do, and it doesn't seem to be echoing. I think we've done it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
So
what
just
I told you to do to begin with.
yeah, just for anybody watching, like, just so because everyone always has problems with this. from what I understand, is that you have to both go in with the headphones on or no headphones, and then has this like tickly kind of sound in the background. But this is the best way to do it. But all right. So I guess anyway, well, glad to have you here. I'm just trying to get more people in the whole anarchist community in general to start talking live, because I don't really feel anybody ever changes their mind when we just like text night one another. And I kind of gave up on doing stuff like that a long time ago because I'm really bad at typing and my grammar's terrible. And I'm just more of like a spoken word type of guy. So, all right, I guess I'll just start off like this. So you mean to tell me that you don't think that this world is run by interdimensional reptiles? You don't think that? What is wrong with you, sir?
I don't know if the world is ran by shape-shifting reptilians, but
Right.
I don't think we can convince people of that. So I don't think it's an effective way to try to influence the world.
No, right. I'm just being silly anyway. I don't necessarily think that or whatever. But I guess so. Where do you want to start off? Do you want to start with the morality thing? You want to talk about the cult or the Darwin thing? I'll leave that up to you.
Let's start with morality, since we've been going at that for a while.
Sure.
I think we should start with definitions.
Okay. All right. So when I say morality is objective, what I'm saying is that there are certain behaviors that are always wrong, no matter what. And based on that, I think morality is objective, because if something's always wrong, then it's objective. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, to me, it's as simple as that. Like, same thing with gravity. Like, I just look at gravity as objective, because no matter how many times you drop something, it's going to fall, unless there's like some way to suspend it. But that still doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that it's always around us, you know?
Okay. So the definition of objective I have is not influenced by personal feelings or opinions. It's a consideration of facts. That's basically what you're saying.
That's right. That's what I mean. Sure. Yeah, it doesn't have to do with my opinion. It just is. 2 + 2 is objectively 4 every time.
Okay. And subjective is influenced by personal feelings, tastes, and opinions.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you avoid having your personal feelings, tastes, and opinions influence your thinking process?
Well, no matter what, everyone's personal taste and and whatever. Well, basically, whatever you just said is going to apply to everything everyone does at all times. I understand that my thoughts aren't necessarily objective, but I can align my thoughts with certain things that are objective. Like take like, again, 2 + 2 is 4. I could say that it's 1106, but it just isn't. Like the evidence is there. I could say whatever I want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. You understand?
Well, 2 + 2 = 4 if we both agree on what the symbol of a 2 represents, right?
Yeah. Well,
like the universe isn't dictated by our equations. Our equations explain our observations.
I suppose so. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but like, I'll take your word for it. I just mean like if there's 2 sticks and we took 2 more sticks, there would be 4 sticks. I don't really care what symbol, if we're using Roman numerals, if we're using Chinese or like our typical, the 2 that I think of in my head. I just mean that I know if you have 2 sticks and we take 2 more sticks, that would be 4 sticks. And that's not up to my opinion. That's objectively provable. Again, you could say that it isn't. But again, like, you could say whatever you want. You know what I mean? It doesn't make that it mean that it's true. So
right.
go ahead.
So we can both say whatever we want, but if we don't agree on what 2 is, the equation means nothing. So I kind of anticipated you were going to bring 2 + 2 = 4 up. So
Okay.
I wanted to go over how variables affect equations.
Okay.
So we can keep the 2 and the 4, but I could change this whole thing to being untrue with just 2 little lines. -2 + 2 does not equal 4, right?
No, okay.
So
But they don't hold the
actually,
same value, though. That's not the same thing.
Well, they're all the same things, but consideration of other facts. What do we do with this information? It changes things.
Well, yeah, but right, you just changed it. Therefore, it's not the same thing that you showed me in the first place. Therefore, it's different. So that wouldn't apply. You know what I mean? Like somebody asked me in another debate. It was something about like the LGBT thing or whatever, about an example I used, and he asked if, well, what if that didn't happen? And then I just said, well, I just wouldn't use that as an example. If we're changing, I mean, we agree on the same definitions, right? Like, I'm assuming that you agree that two, when we're talking about two, we mean the same thing, right?
Yeah, and it's true because we agree on it. It's not true if we disagreed on it. It would be
Well,
math is a language that we created for
well, it's understood,
communication
is
and
what I'm saying.
understanding.
Right. What I'm saying is it's understood though. Like we're making the same thing. Like I mean, I could always argue in another realm, like the multiverse or limbo or some non-existent or possibly existent thing. Things vary there, but I just mean in the physical 3D reality that we currently inhabit. Like, generally, like what we learned in school, the value of two. I'm talking about. Like, if we 2 + 2 would be 4. Again, like I'm just trying to. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but we don't understand math because the universe gave us math. We understand math because we created it as a language.
Okay. Well, what does that have to do with
So
what we're talking about?
I don't know, because you brought it up. I'm saying mathematics doesn't really have anything to do with morality. So I'm just saying
Well,
subjective variables change things. They change how you think about things, and they change the outcomes and the answers, and all that matters as much
no,
as
I agree with that. I'm just saying that, like, so the reason I brought up math specifically was just because if something is it's always the same, then I would say it was objective. Like, my argument I always use, because to me it's a very simple one, is rape is always wrong. Are you able to give me a scenario where rape would be the moral and righteous thing to do? And no one ever seems to be able to do that. Do you
well,
have
I've been able to do it a number of times in a number of different ways, and I'm not sure that you hear my answer.
Okay.
Because first I will say that you're creating a straw man. I've never claimed, nor does my belief that values are subjective imply that rape could ever be moral. It doesn't imply that. I don't think it's the right thing to do under any circumstance.
Right.
But if you wanted to push me for an analogy, Vanessa came up with one for you where the guy who molested his 2 kids, he's going to go to jail, and if he gets pounded in the ass, I couldn't care less. Now,
I would agree.
Is it moral? I don't know.
No, I wouldn't say it.
But it's better. He's saying it's better to kill him than.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
What's more immoral, rape or murder?
What's more, I would say murder. Actually, I have a joke about that. Actually,
Okay.
but yeah, no, I would say murder because you're just taking someone's life fully. They're both completely immoral. But if I guess I had to weigh them, I would probably say murder because you've taken the person's life. So I would say that's probably worse. But what I mean though, like in general, is just that if certain behaviors are always wrong, and everyone agrees that, I mean, it doesn't really even matter that everyone agrees. But like, I've never met anyone that says that rape is moral. So if that behavior is wrong in every situation, it would be objectively wrong. You understand? Like, to me, it's just that simple. It's like, again, the difference between rape and sex is consent. Once you break that person's natural rights in the first place, then then that's what makes it immoral. Like that's what it is, the consent.
But sex isn't consent. That's just sex doesn't. It doesn't need consent as what I'm trying to say. Rape obviously implies no consent, right?
Right. That's why it's rape.
Right. But the objective act is just sex. So obviously there's one way that we determined is bad and one way that we determined is good, but the objective act is sex. So,
right. It's the intent. It's the intent is
right.
what makes it evil. Right.
But,
I agree.
But we put those labels on there for our well-being. We put those labels on there so that we could say this is what's okay and this is what's not okay.
But it doesn't matter if we labeled it or not. You can just see from the biological reaction. You could call it something. You could let's say you made up your own language and we made up a different word for rape, and you went and whatever word you decided attempted to do that word and rape the girl. You get the exact same reaction no matter what you call it. because it's the
But what
behavior that's
about when
wrong.
the girl reacts?
Well,
That's my point.
in the natural world, which you're appealing to nature, right?
I'm just appealing to common sense. You know, I guess if you want to call it that, sure. But,
A lot of
you know,
people don't.
to
Well,
me,
you're appealing to facts, right? Facts
yes, to the
about
best I
reality and
understand them.
nature.
Sure.
Okay, so in the world that we currently live in,
Hmm.
every single animal except for humans rapes exclusively. There's no
I
like
agree.
making love or whatever you want to call it. It's
Right.
just that's just
I hear
reproduction
dolphins
to
get
them.
freaky, actually. I do hear dolphins get kind of freaky and
Yeah.
squeaky, even. Uh, that's true. Right. But, like, for example, do you hold yourself to the same standard as the animal kingdom? Why don't you go around raping women, you know, or anyone else? Why, you know, let me ask you, is it just because of the threat of law, or do you find that your conscience tells you not to? Because I don't give a fuck about laws. I do whatever I want. I just follow my conscience. But my conscience has prevented me from ever raping any woman ever. It's not because I'm afraid to go to jail. I'm not afraid to go to jail. I just know that it's wrong.
You know the
All right. Well,
consequences.
you know the consequences of your actions, and so you know that that's bad. And I'm sure you do have a conscience, which is what I would call subjectivity. It's your brain telling you what you think, and you
Right,
know it's wrong. And if you would
right.
tell me, you know, I don't believe in laws, but your argument is natural law. So you are appealing to law, and I'm appealing to our brains can
Yeah.
reason our way to this.
Let me just jump in real quick. What's it called? Just to confirm something, because I'm actually probably going to stop using the term natural law because it really seems to confuse everyone. When I say natural law,
Right there.
I just mean cause and effect. Another term for it would be like consequentialism. I don't mean like the Darwinian theory of evolution or anything like that. I mean that like when you do certain acts have negative behaviors, you know what I mean? That you're always going to get a negative response from. Like rape would be one of them. So what I'm saying is I don't look at morality applied to the animal kingdom the way it does to human beings, because animals don't have morals, because they're just animals. They just they're almost like
Take the
robots,
animal
just like
kingdom
running
out.
on machines and stuff. So what I'm saying is morality only applies in our case to human beings and possibly other beings that have consciousness to discern between these two things. So that's why I wouldn't apply the same morality that you or I would have to deal with to like my old leopard tortoise from when I lived at my mom's house. You know, that thing just eats, it shits, it fucks, it's, you know, like all animals. So I'm not talking about,
Sounds like humans, if you ask me.
well, we share certain things. Like, yeah, that's actually part of my argument for the vegan thing, actually, is that we share certain attributes because we are animals. And I do agree with that. I just don't think we're as simple as just animals. And that actually gets into that whole ancient mysticism thing, but we can get to that later. What I'm saying is that
Evolution
because we're
involving
human
past
beings, I feel that we're
understanding.
held to a higher standard of morality because, again, like what's prevented you from going around raping women your entire life? Like, is it just the law, or you know, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of times I could have gotten away with raping a girl. I just didn't because I know it's wrong. You know, I'm assuming that
Why is it
applies to you
wrong?
too,
Because
right?
of the way somebody feels.
No, I've never felt compelled to rape anybody. I've never
Liar, you've
raped.
definitely got a hard on, and we're thinking, man, you know, like it happens to me all the
Ah,
time. I'm just like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. You
destroyed
know,
me.
that's totally wrong. You know, it's not about the jail thing. It's just about like, yeah, I shouldn't do that. You know, because that's what your conscience is for. I mean, think about it. If morality is subjective, why would we even have a conscience in the first place? Like, why would we even have that? It doesn't make any sense. You know,
Well,
well,
where is your conscience located? If we dissected you, where would you find this conscience that
that's a
seems
really
to
good
be?
question. I think it's a combination probably between my brain and my heart. I'm not sure if it's necessarily something like I could find
Heart
with
beats
like a
fast.
spatula or something like that. But again, where do you find your emotions from? You know what I mean? Like, can you point to where when you feel sad, where it is? You know, it's there. See, I feel it more in my heart. You know, but like you can't point to where that feeling is. It's just a feeling. You know what I'm saying? See, that's kind of the problem I have with modern science. It's too materialistic, where they can't explain a lot. Like they can't explain intuition or anything like that. Yeah, good.
You just described it as just a feeling, and that's the definition of subjectivity.
That's where you have to be stopped.
Yeah, sure. But my point is that your feelings can be aligned with what's true. I understand. Like that's the thing. I understand that like everything I think you could argue is subjective. However, you can align your thoughts with what's objective true. You know what I mean? Again, that was my point about I could say that 2 + 2 is 812, but it doesn't mean that it's true. You know what I mean? Like you can
Well,
prove.
when it comes to the word truth, all I hear you doing is stating as a fact that you have this truth, but I'm not hearing any defense of what the truth is other than it confirms
Provable.
what I already think.
I mean, provable. Like, okay, so here, I have 2 quarters right here. If I take 2 more, how many would I have? You know how many I would
Right.
have. I mean, you say whatever you want, or you could apply whatever
Okay.
value. But I'm assuming that we're both human, we're both tuned to the same frequencies and everything like that. So that's my point. Like certain behaviors are always wrong, just like gravity. Like you could say, well, science hasn't proven gravity or gravity's objective, but you're gonna fall every time. It just is what it is.
I'm trying to understand the connection between I've got 2 quarters and I should or shouldn't do something as a moral, there's no connection logically whatsoever.
What I'm saying is certain behaviors mathematically, like you could apply math to it, are always wrong. If rape is wrong in every situation, then therefore it is objective. Now I could rape a girl and lie and say, oh, well, I think that's okay. But just based by the girl's reaction, you can see that it's not okay because you broke her consent. Unless, of course, she, is weird or whatever. But, like, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Like, try it. See what reaction. I mean, I wouldn't recommend trying it. But see what reaction you would get by going and doing that. It's always going to be a negative reaction.
Didn't you just agree that if the guy who molested both of his children was raped in prison, that neither of us would really care?
No, I wouldn't.
So then what standard are you using for saying that it's always wrong? If me and you, pretty moral guys who wouldn't rape.
Well, I would say it's wrong. I just don't care as much because what he did, I don't feel as bad about it. You know what I mean? Like you could apply. Like
hold on,
yeah.
hold on. I got to call you on it again. You said I don't feel, and that's the authority you keep referring to is the way you feel about it. And I don't object to that. I'm just saying that's subjective morality.
No, I'm still saying if he got raped in jail, the person who raped him would be wrong. I personally just don't.
By what standard? By what standard?
Because rape is always wrong.
How do you convince somebody of that?
But he said it's okay.
Well, give me a scenario where rape would be the moral thing to do. You think that would be the moral thing to do?
Yes,
you said that murder. You said that murder is worse in your opinion than rape, and you said it's okay to kill somebody. Okay, but you said it's okay to kill somebody if they rape somebody. So your argument defeats itself.
That's not what I said.
Saying,
no, but that's not what I said. Like, what I mean is this: is that, like, for example, if someone comes to attack me, right, whether it's rape or whatever the reason, I have the right to defend myself to whatever degree it becomes, because I'm not sure what that attacker is going to do. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you kill the person. Let's say someone breaks into your home, right?
But that's crazy.
And you're in the situation where you have the gun, you could kill the person or you could wound the person and have them taken to jail or whatever the fuck it is. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you kill them, but I would say that you have the right to do so because you have no idea what that person's capable of. Now, the people that you're talking about in jail that may or may not rape Sean Windingland, they have nothing to do with what happened to him and his daughters. You know what I mean? So that's just like an effect of people that have people in jail. Lots of people get raped in jail. Is it always justified? That's just what happens. Just because that's what happens doesn't necessarily mean that it's moral or not.
Can it be justified?
What?
Raping a rapist.
No, because if it's justified, then it's not rape. It's consent. That's the point. Like if you consent to it, it's not rape. But
killing a rapist can be.
Is consent the be all end all of morality?
Yeah, actually, I would say that it probably is. No.
That's exactly what the guy who molested his 2 daughters said. He made a video where they both said, "We consent." Yeah, or one of them did. I don't know. I didn't watch the video, but that he was using consent as the justification for objective morality, and I don't see how that works in his kid's favor.
Well, that's actually, I brought this up before, but that's why I think he started making those videos, because he started asking and trying to, like, who are these girls where he was talking to in Zimbabwe or whatever it was. He was trying to, like, explain to them the scenario because his conscience came into play. And because his conscience came into play, he couldn't continue to lie to himself about what he was doing
He
is
was
wrong.
still raping
So he
his
may not have
little
said
girl.
that on video, but you can tell like that. I mean, think about it. Why do you think he's filming this type of shit? You know what I mean? His conscience
To
came
make
into
it
play.
more.
I think he's filming it because he sincerely believed and wanted to convince, he wanted to make a point that
Hmm.
what he was doing wasn't wrong. And that's why he made a video, because he was proving that we don't understand consent, the way, or we
Then
don't
why did he say he was
understand.
okay with that though? Why did he say the girl said she wasn't interested in doing it anymore? He said he was okay with that, you know.
Because
And in the next
he no longer
video,
had consent.
we're also talking about
He no
like a
longer had consent.
6-year-old girl too, who obviously like her brain isn't fully developed and stuff. So I mean, I assume you just kind of assume that or whatever. But like, I mean, would you go by the word of a child anyway? Like, I certainly wouldn't. You know. I mean, do you think
I mean,
like a 4-year-old understands morality? I don't.
no, and that's why I don't appeal to consent as the only moral standard. As somebody who has subjective morals, I have a lot of standards for whether or not something is moral or not. And
Well, what
one
are those other
takes into
standards?
one of them takes into consideration power imbalance between people and accountability and responsibility, things people don't generally talk about. Like if you're going to have a child, it's your duty to actually raise that child up, to provide for it, to take care of it, to love it. And
Hmm.
so molesting that child is detrimental, not even if that child wanted to engage in sex with their father, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, he raised them.
Even if
Like
they,
he. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, he raised them to think like that, and he
Right.
raised them to think that there was no problem with it. And that's the power of conditioning and really
Right.
morality. We're raised to believe things, and that's what becomes our
But
conscience. What
actually, so actually, but let me bring this up, because that's actually a really good point. The thing is, that's why so many soldiers suffer from PTSD, because they go there and they've been brainwashed and conditioned to go and kill people from all over the planet, and do all these horrible things, and they come back and they have trouble dealing with facing the truth because their conscience is still within them. I mean, for example, like, why do you think when you go into an institution like police or military, they intentionally shut down your limbic brain? Why do you think they do that? They do that because you have something within you that helps measure morality to the best that we can understand it within this objective reality. See, I understand that like our views and stuff are subjective, but there is an objective truth, and the goal is to align yourself with that objective truth as best you can. See, I think the more successful people in life generally, not always, but generally, have aligned themselves with what it actually is, as opposed to, like one of my old friends, this guy was just kind of really delusional, and he just ruined his life because he just wanted to believe what he wanted to believe, and he didn't look at things for what they really are. And, he ended up like losing, he basically went insane because of this. That's the thing. Like, I understand there are plenty of things that are subjective, but what I'm saying is certain behaviors are always wrong. And based on that, it's our job to align ourselves with that. Because, again, you could say whatever you want. I could say that I'm going to go fly like Peter Pan tonight and tell everyone. It doesn't mean that it's true. You could. That's kind of what I mean. You can just say whatever you want, but things are provable, at least to the best that we understand in this 3D reality we inhabit. So what I'm to basically finish what I'm saying is just like Sean Windingland lied to himself, and I think the reason he ended up making those videos is because at some point his conscience came into play and was just like, I can't really be doing this anymore. And that's the same thing that happens to soldiers with PTSD and stuff. Not that they rape their daughters, but so you see what
well,
I mean?
here's something that is provable.
Yeah.
You say you feel your conscience in your heart, right?
Not necessarily. I think so, but I don't know where it is. It could be somewhere down the
Okay.
block. I don't
You
know.
think you think that you do, right? You
Sure.
think that's where you feel it. Well, what thinks for you?
What thinks for me? My
Yeah.
brain, I guess, does most of it. Although I
Right.
also view my brain as a like more of like a receiver than like it's actually going on in my brain. I view my brain as like a receiver for just like the infinite all. That's which actually gets into the whole mysticism thing because I've had a couple of experiences which I'll gladly tell you about if you want. Where like I felt like I was pulling something that wasn't like a better example would be when you're just laying there and you have a zillion thoughts going through your head about all sorts of stuff. I don't consider myself thinking about that. I consider my like it just passing through me or kind of you understand or not?
I mean, that's a theory that may or
Right,
may not be true. But
right. It
what
is.
I but you do acknowledge that your brain does your reasoning, right?
Yeah,
So you think
I
for
think
your
so. I
well,
think so.
I'm asking you if you think for yourself or if something else is thinking for you.
No, I absolutely think for myself. In terms of making decisions, though, I do think my brain, or I think everyone's brain, just like again, when you just daydream, like, is that really what you're thinking about, or are these thoughts like passing through your brain some other way? See, that's why I think my brain is a receiver. Like, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, so I don't sound like a Looney Tune, right? Anyway, I think of a lot of jokes. Like I'm like all day with the fucking jokes. It's just how I am constantly. Anybody that knows me in my personal life tell you the same thing. I used to describe, like when people would say to me, Justin, like, where do you think of all this stuff? I actually always said my entire life, I don't consider myself, it's something that I thought of. It's something that like passed through my head and I was conscious enough. And the way I would describe it to them was, it was almost like it was like here. And I would like pull it into like physical reality. That's really honestly how I would always describe it to people. Then interestingly enough, what's it called, along the way, as I was doing more and more research into like what the ancient mysticisms and all that type of stuff is, that's actually the description I do where like this, I don't know if you can see, where you have the hand up and the one down. That's actually an ancient symbol for exactly what I described, that I just randomly, coincidentally came to understand in my own head with no prerequisite knowledge of that at all. So that's one of the reasons I do believe that into that type of stuff where my brain is a receiver, because I don't like that same thing with your subconscious. It just, things pass through your head all the time. You know, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily thinking about these things. It'd just be like, oh, wait a minute, grab a joke, and then there it is. Into now it's real. Now it's in 3D. So that's kind of how I view that. I also might be wrong. I'm open to being wrong, but that's it. To me, that was an awfully interesting coincidence, which is why I'm into that type of stuff.
Well, this is off topic, but what if we are this like genetic information that's passed down through biology,
Astral memories, you're
where
talking about?
yeah, where we have the memories of our ancestors or the information is stored in there and it can
Sure.
be activated. Maybe that's part of what we are, but it's not coming from the outside, it's coming from within,
Maybe
right?
that's that. Believe it. You ever heard of Assassin's Creed? You know, the video game series.
Hmm.
That's actually what the entire series is about. To tell you the truth, that's the whole idea. The guy jumps in something called the animus, and animus is actually, I think, Latin or something for soul. And that the idea is he jumps back into those ancient memories. Now, again, like also like Nikola Tesla, he was known as probably the smartest man, at least in the modern day. He described what I just described, that your brain is a receiver. Now, not to downplay you by any means, but like, no offense, I'm going to believe Nikola Tesla over you or me, just based on the fact that this guy fucking figured out and created everything. So to me, that's just a good piece of evidence that what I'm saying is more likely to be true than not true. Again, I could be wrong. I just don't think so.
Well, Tesla was kind of an interesting guy who befriended birds,
Yeah,
and he obviously, I think he was isolated himself a lot,
sure.
and
I do too, actually.
he didn't have a lot of human people skills and business and all that.
Yeah,
I think that it's a reasonable thing to assume that possibly, say he concocted an imaginary friend or in his head or a psychological projection of something. Maybe his creativity led him, there's people who believe things that aren't true who accomplish
right.
great things.
Like,
So
well,
he
can
was a
you give me an example of who else? Would you mind giving me an example of who else you're talking about that like had these ridiculous beliefs that did create, you know?
I don't know. Let's just stick with Tesla. I mean, he had his own way of viewing the world that was
Sure,
different than
we
everybody
all do.
else's, and he got different results than what everybody else did. But he was doing science. He was sticking to the
Right,
scientific, way of doing things.
right.
So I'm just saying,
He
or
also
like
did.
even take
I was just,
take like
he
autism.
also actually, I'm sorry, he also claimed that he possibly got communications from aliens and they were giving him the ideas. Now, that might sound crazy, but again, like, who are we to argue with the guy that figured out like radio waves, all this stuff? Like, I mean, this guy created practically everything, which is why the government suppresses him. So, again, as crazy as that may sound to me or you, I would listen to a guy like that. See, let me give you a perfect example. I'll give you two great examples of what I'm talking about, right? I believe in the lost city of Atlantis, and I think anybody who doesn't is probably dumb. The reason this is simple as this. Plato is one of the most well-known, well-respected human beings that ever lived. Everybody loves and reveres him, quotes him all the time. I see his quotes on Facebook all the time. Did you know Plato was the guy that actually brought forth the theory of the lost city of Atlantis to the public consciousness? Now, my point that I'm getting to is, why would we believe 98% of what this guy says and revere it, except that one thing? Unless there's more to the story. Same thing. I'll give you a very similar example with George Carlin, right? I'm a huge George Carlin fan. To me, he was like almost like a father figure. I love that guy. And he was known and revered for being extremely honest and amusing, but he was notorious for being honest. Now, you can find an interview. I'll send it to you if you want. I have to find it, but there was an interview where George Carlin flat out said in front of an audience of people, they asked him, well, what would make you happy? What would make you a happy person? Because a lot of his negativity. And he flat out said, if the alien beings that engineered us in the first place came back down and undid what they did. And he flat out said that. Now, why would this guy be completely honest about everything? And on many interviews, he said over and over again that he's not joking, he's serious about these things. Why would he lie about that one thing?
People lie all the time for their own reasons. And
what do you think his reason was? Wouldn't that just discredit him?
No, because people believe lies more than they believe truth. That's just human nature. They want to believe things that they want to believe. So really anything goes.
So why didn't he lie about everything else then? Why not just lie his entire career? Same thing with Plato. Why not just lie out your ass then,
Because you can't get people to believe lies if you only tell lies. You slip lies in with the truth, and then people believe the lie.
So are you saying that basically, so you're saying that Plato and George Carlin's plan was to basically trick the masses by giving them lots of knowledge and wisdom and then lie about this one thing? Why would they do that?
No, I don't know why they would or wouldn't do it. I'm not saying any of that. I didn't know those people. I didn't know their character. I don't really know what the point of this is. But take for instance.
Let me just say the point that I'm getting Well, let me just to finish. The point that I'm getting to is that if someone's very well respected, very revered, and very successful, I'm going to consider what they're saying and not just dismiss something that might sound a little bit crazy to the average person who doesn't like research or do these things. And I'm not implying that's you. I'm just saying, to me, it doesn't make sense that they would be honest about 98, 99% of everything else and then just make up this far-fetched story like Tesla, like Carlin, like Plato. To me, it makes more sense that there's truth in what they're saying and that maybe we should be more open-minded to things is what I'm saying. Because these guys were all geniuses. That's what I mean.
Well, if you take the importance of believing things that other people say seriously, you have to apply that logic to everybody and everything. So there's lots of good, successful people who started religions. I don't adhere to any religion, but I would have to say, why did, the 60 plus people who wrote the Bible, why did they lie? Maybe there was some truth to it, but.
Well, I could tell you all about that, actually. As far as I'm concerned, let me ask you this, and this just goes for anybody who watches or sees this debate. This isn't like a question specifically posed to you, but I kind of made up a joke about this. But what's your opinion? Do you think, I think all religions were made by the same people. Do you think that's a far-fetched idea? I think to me, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, I think they were all made up by the same people. And basically separated into each area like a sports team to keep everyone fighting. Do you think that's like a far-fetched belief?
There was a guy named Abraham who believed that he was receiving messages from somewhere else, and he called that. It
wasn't just that. A lot of people think that, but yeah.
Well, he called that God, and he heard in his head the objective truth giver telling him that he should sacrifice his son Isaac. Yeah. So as you can see, objective morality also creates a horrible situation where you can't actually reason with people, and it creates an authority that can't be questioned, which is why it's more dangerous.
Let me just also throw this out, though. You know the Bible in general, most of these religious books are actually symbolic allegories for, they're not actually supposed to be taken literally. I know many people do, but for example, the story of Genesis, it's not actually about a snake telling a woman to eat an apple. You have to study the symbology of what these things actually mean and everything like that. But that's a whole other topic. And I agree with you that, people do justify, their things by saying they're talking to God. But again, it's objectively wrong, because if the kid, you would see the kid resist being killed. based on the fact that you understand that this child does not want to be killed, that's how you know it's wrong. That's why we have these senses and stuff, you know?
That's how we know it. But if a higher power, if I start creating an authority figure outside of humans, then I can
Right.
easily justify anything and nobody
Right.
can question me. That's your
Absolutely, I
argument.
completely agree with you. Yeah, I completely agree with you. But that's not what I'm doing. You understand? Like, I'm not claiming I'm getting messages from God or anything like that. I think that there's more to the story. I kind of am one of those people that believe in the whole idea of like consciousness and all that. What's it called? One of the reasons I like symbology and stuff is like take like a star. Do you know what a star symbolizes?
No.
No? Okay. Well, here, I'll give you a quick breakdown of why Satanists use an inverted star. A star symbolizes the four elements: earth, water, air, fire, on a five-pointed star. I'm specifically a five-pointed star. The high point of the star that they never teach us because they don't want us understanding this type of stuff symbolizes and represents spirit. Just the way the ancient Egyptians, right? Their hieroglyph for God, and the Egyptians were really, really far ahead of, I would say, in us in a lot of ways today. They're, what's it called? Is there something going on in the background? I hear like, is there like a video on or something? No? Oh, okay. Maybe it's that thing we were talking about, you know? But
It might be
anyway,
me complaining.
I hear voice. Yeah. Maybe it's Vanessa. She's been telling me all my jokes all my life, you know? Vanessa, where you been? But anyway, where was it going? So the Egyptian hieroglyph, and again, the Egyptians, they put their greatest minds to the mystery of death for over 3,000 years. This country is only like 240 years old, something like that. Anyway, where I'm going with this is the hieroglyph for God was actually a flagpole, and with a flag because it represented the unseen power that's there that we can't actually see. Now, I would laugh in the face of most modern scientists and archaeologists if they think the whole pyramid. I don't know if you saw the video I did on the pyramid, but they are lying through their teeth about those things because they don't want us questioning that stuff. But anyway, back to the star thing. So what I was saying is the star, the high point of the star represents spirit, which is the idea that that's what the Egyptian flagpole represented. The reason Satanists invert the star, they flip it upside down, they're trying to symbolically killing that spirit. And that's why they do that. So I don't believe in God per se, like there's an old man in the sky, but I just kind of look at God as the life force that inhabits everything that is alive. You know, like I consider us the fifth element, like that movie, The Fifth Element. That's kind of how I view reality.
Okay.
I don't like pray or anything.
My question is, that's what you believe and that's what you think.
Based on evidence, though. It's not just like something I made up.
Okay, I think you just made it up and I didn't hear any evidence for it.
What? Well, for example, the brain thing that I just spoke about, right? How I think my brain is a receiver. I also gave you an example of probably the smartest man who ever lived that we know of who said the exact same thing. I mean, I could pull up documents and stuff if you want, but I mean, like yeah.
I know what a brain does. It receives and
Right.
it transmits. That's what it is. So you're not getting away from the brain. You're not appealing to facts. You're appealing back to the thing that subjectivity is. The brain, the thoughts, the feelings.
Well, okay, but like,
you're making my argument for me.
What about the pineal gland and all like the DMT in there and all these spiritual experiences that people have? You know, right? Okay.
So you're appealing to the brain again.
Right. What's your point, though? I agree that we have a brain, sure.
Yeah, my point is that our brains work. They receive information from the world that we live in. So when we see something that we say, wow, that I would want that to happen to me, then it's a bad thing. Then your brain makes associations or neural associations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what about all the
process?
Right. No, I mean, I agree. But like, what about all the out-of-body experiences that people have and describe virtually the same from all over the world? It's kind of like the whole, like, just to, not to really equate this to. Okay, but like
that happens in the brain too.
Well, okay. How about this? I'm familiar with Graham Hancock, right? Recently, I watched a video where he was explaining how he had an out-of-body experience, and the government has actually funded testing a lot of out-of-body experiences where people were unconscious. They were unconscious the entire time. The entire time they were clinically dead, right? And there's tons of evidence on this. I'll send you lots of videos. And they described what everyone in the room was wearing to a T. And this isn't like one case. This is a lot of cases. So what I'm saying is that I don't think that we have a full understanding of reality the way that we want. I think what you're kind of coming from a more left brain point of view where physical matter is all there is. And I don't necessarily believe that. Again, I'm open to being wrong about these things. I just don't think so. The difference is a lot of ancient people, they talked all about this. And if you study the ancients, they were way ahead of modern day scientists and stuff like that in terms of a lot of these things. I'm sorry, somebody called me and interrupted me. So what I was saying is in China, there are these statues, right? They have tetrahedrons under the claws of the statue. These date back thousands upon thousands of years. Now, the only way you're going to see a tetrahedron is through an electron microscope. So how do these people, thousands of years before civilization really existed, know about these things? Unless there's more to the story. You see, that's...
Well, we may have even been more advanced in the past, but it doesn't change what we're talking about. We're still talking about people with their brains thinking, doing science, looking at things. We're not getting away from we're getting away from the topic of whether morality is subjective or objective.
Well, not well. I mean, all right. Well, so anyway, back to the morality thing. I'm simply saying is that because certain behaviors are always wrong, this is why morality is objective in every case. That's why. Like, can you give me a situation? Here's a better example. Give me a situation where you can't figure out who's right or who's wrong, and I'll do my best to figure that out based on the way I look at things.
Okay.
Can you give me a scenario where you just can't figure out who was right and who was wrong?
Yeah. Any situation that involves more than two people where another person is affected by an action, any situation, it becomes dependent upon subjectivity. Otherwise, you might be doing something good for one person and it's causing harm to another. You know, you could be falling in love with somebody and the person
That's why you
who's
should
in love with you.
No, right. That's why I think people should really think things through. No more. That's the problem. People don't think things through enough. I think they should take more time and really think about, well, is this behavior going to affect these people down the line? I think people are in generally very short-sighted, and I think that's one of the problems we face. So I would agree with that. The problem is that you still didn't give me a situation where we can't figure out who's morally wrong and who's right. Can you give me a scenario, like an exact scenario, where you just can't figure out who's wrong? Because I'm sure I can.
Hold on, Vanessa's writing me a note. Why don't you just say
Okay.
it?
Okay. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's all right. Vanessa,
Okay.
show face, say hello,
Okay.
you know? I'm a nice guy.
Go ahead.
Oh no,
Peek in so they can see
you're
your
fine.
pretty
No,
face.
no,
Come on.
nobody wants to see my face.
Yeah, they
Okay.
do.
Oh,
So when
please.
can you defend yourself
You're
if
not
you're?
even on the video.
I
Come
don't
on,
want to be in the
scoot on
video. Okay.
Just get Vanessa, get in the video. Come on. There we go.
So listen,
There we the happy couple.
When
What's
can
up,
you
guys?
defend yourself if you're raped? So you think? Wait, sorry.
You still there? You still there? Aw. Hello, hello. Oh, come on, Dave. That's his wife. Give him a break. Hello, hello. You guys still there? Is anybody still? Leave it to a woman, huh? Hold on. Let's re-invite them or whatever. No, it's all right. I'll take two against one. It's fine. Hang on. I got to invite him back now. I didn't do anything. I think maybe she like knocked over the phone. Wait, hang on, Dave. Let me just finish this conversation. We can definitely get it popping. Let me just see if I can get them back in. All right, I just re-invited him. Dave, we'll do one after or whatever. All right. Well, so far, while people are watching, what do you think? Am I making sense here, or am I crazy? Tell me. Is he crazy? I just re-invited him. Hang on. Hang on. The esoteric, Dave. All I do is the esoteric. That's like my main area of study and stuff. Bring up Passio already. Yeah, that's fine with me. Hang on. Vanessa Rhine. Caleb, what do you want to know about the whole Passio thing? I know him, so it's I could speak on behalf of many things that he talks about if you want. Where'd he go? Damn it. Caleb, what do you want to know? Oh, here we go. Okay, okay. I'm famous. Everybody wants a piece of me. Okay, there we
Okay,
go.
that was
Leave
my
it to
fault.
a woman.
Okay.
Leave it to a woman,
That's why it
Just
took
to-
so long to get it going.
I
She
couldn't
kept
Right,
helping me.
I
right,
couldn't figure
right.
it out. Okay, so listen. So
Yeah.
you're telling me that it's okay, right? It's okay to, in self-defense, you can defend yourself,
Yes.
right? And you can kill somebody. You can potentially kill somebody, correct? If they're
Yes.
trying to, let's just say they're trying to rape you.
Yes, I would say whatever is necessary up until murder, but actually not killing that person in self-defense, simply because you don't know what that person is capable of.
Okay, when is it okay? Let's just say, okay, the act of rape, there's long-term consequences for it, right?
Right.
PTSD, people end up being re-victimized repeatedly. So what happens if, let's just say you're raped, you're 120 pounds, and then you have somebody who's
Sounds
225. Right, okay. So, but then you have somebody who's 225, and what happens is that person can't defend themselves right then.
Right.
They're overpowered, correct? So what happens if in 2 months after going through a court case or, suffering other negative consequences, they have a mental breakdown? They go and they decide to exact their revenge then. Is that still okay?
Yeah, I'd say that's okay. By the person.
Now,
I wouldn't recommend you handle it like that. But like for example, right? I wouldn't really have a problem. Like, let's say the exact situation happened, right? I wouldn't have a problem with that because, again, it's the idea. If you don't start on, there won't be any. You know what I mean? It's the person who initiates the problem. Hey, let me give you an example. In schools, right? Here's a big problem they do in schools, right? With kids. If you guys get, yeah, it's all right. If you guys really want to get close together and just have one, you know what I mean? In schools, for example, in schools, right? When two kids get in a fight, they both get punished. But that teaches them that it's not okay to fight back. The only person that should get punished is the person who initiated the problem. Because again, it's the person who starts the problem that's wrong. The other person's just fighting back in self-defense. And that's why it's the initiator that's the person who's wrong. You understand? It's always who initiates the problem. Because without the person initiating it, there wouldn't be a problem. You understand? To me, it's just that simple. And that's what applies in all moral cases. It's who starts it. If you didn't start it, the problem would exist. It's who manifests it into physical reality. Again, there are plenty of thoughts. I've seen beautiful women. I'm like, man, I'd love to take care of that. But I don't do it because I know it's wrong. I might go up to her and be like, hey, but you know what I mean? And get shot down or whatever it may or may not be. But it's just the point. Like, that's just how it works. So it's who initiates it.
Okay, but that's fine. But let me cut you off there for a second. Why, to you, is it wrong? Why is okay, let's just, why is it wrong? Is it that you're thinking
wrong?
About why is
what
raping?
wrong?
Like, you see a good woman, you see a good looking woman, why don't you just go and rape her?
Because
I mean, like, give me your answer. Yes.
Because I would go and talk to her because I'd want to make sure that she was okay with me hopping on top of her. Because if she didn't want that, and she would probably fight back, claw me, cut my dick off, and hate me. And there's probably an actual infinite number of reasons why I don't. Yes.
The consequences, and also
and it's
you
wrong.
would probably
And my
stop
conscience,
to think about
and
how
my
is she gonna
conscience stops
feel?
me. I'm sorry.
My
conscience stops me. Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. I got a question.
Yeah, okay.
So your conscience stops you, but you were just describing the voices in your head being like, oh, yeah, I'd like to do that. And so where did that voice come from?
The other shoulder. I
So
don't
you've
know.
got like multiple personality disorder going on here, though.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, have you ever studied Carl Jung or Sigmund Freud, where they talk about the id, the ego, and then, like, the different parts of your brain, the subconscious, like the meta subconscious, whatever it's called? You know, there are different facets in you. Absolutely, sure. You know, I'm just trying to weigh what's right and wrong. That's exactly my point. Is that, like, you have a conscience, so you can navigate. Like, here's a good point. Is that, like, the word conscience.
You're just calling any decision you think right to be your conscience, but it's all your brain, and you're just
that's not necessarily true, though. Like, for example, like when I decide between having like a Coke or a Pepsi or a Snickers or a Milky Way, no one else's morality comes into play. It's when someone else's free will behavior and desires that I'm affecting. That's when it's moral. You know, deciding to go to a basketball game over a baseball game is not immoral.
But look. So, okay, what you take into consideration before you go out and just do whatever you want is how somebody else is going to feel about it, right? That's something.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Okay, so before you do something that's going to affect somebody else, you take into account how they're going to feel about it?
Yeah.
But when it's objective, it's either right or wrong. So you don't get the feelings, the justifications, the validations.
It's either subjective or objective, and every argument presented so far has been the brain, the feelings, my thoughts. You stated that that's the definition of subjective.
So are you saying that there's no such thing as truth? You don't think truth exists? Is that what you're? Are you a solipsist? Is that where you're going?
No, I think that
define the truth.
There are true and false statements that can be made. But when it comes to the universe, we don't think in true or false. That's something that we do, is we say, oh, that was a true statement. Like when you say that the universe has laws that pertain to morality, to me, that is a false statement that has no justifiability, and you have no way to, there's no
but there is, because you can see the reaction. That's my point. Like, you can see the reaction.
You can see the reaction of another person with a brain, and you see the interaction of two subjective minds saying, okay, well, how do you feel about this? You wouldn't be saying consent is that important if it was about objectivity from the universe or anything else.
Do me a favor and define something that's true. Explain to me something that is true. Because it sounds to me like you don't think anything's true.
What is true? It is true that I have a brain and that it's responsible for my thoughts. And
but what if I feel like you don't?
You don't. It doesn't matter. Then you're objectively wrong.
It doesn't matter.
No.
Bingo! Thank you. You just proved my point. I'm
your
objectively wrong. You just said it. I would be objectively
wrong.
You just said it.
Subjectively wrong.
No, you don't think, dude. You're objectively wrong in regards to a statement. That doesn't mean that morality is objective.
It means that you decided subjectively.
You decided subjectively.
So name something objective. Name something objective.
I have a brain.
Okay. All right.
I have 5 toes.
Well, okay, but I could just say. But I could also just say, like, your argument is that because I'm deciding that what you're saying is true, it's subjective. That's what you've been arguing the whole time. I'm arguing that rape is right. Right. So then, is it objective or subjective that you have a brain?
Okay, but
I'm aligning my perception with the objective truth that you do have a brain. That's what I'm saying. I understand that, like, my opinions are subjective, but there is an objective truth, and it's my job to be a good person to align my perception with the objective truth. That's what I mean. It's always wrong to murder someone. It's always
no, it
wrong.
isn't. No, it isn't.
You just said it wasn't.
You just said it wasn't.
No, okay, hold on. Let me go. This is one of the big problems that most people have with this stuff, right?
I know, killing and murder are different,
self-defense, right? Killing and murder are different.
No, they're not.
They're not.
The objective action is the same.
No.
We're changed the word so that we can justify the behavior.
Let me point.
So there's no difference between Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis in the Halloween movie.
No. Listen, please. 1 second. Just listen.
Okay.
Let me point something out. Just because you decide that your action of self-defense was justified does not mean that another person's family is going to decide that. If I get raped and I subjectively decide to go and kill the person who rapes me, he never consented to it. There was never anything like that. It's still, the end result is still the same. It's still taking another human life. That family is going to say, no, it's murder. She murdered him. She could have dealt with this in a different way. She could have done this. She could have done that. But you're saying that's okay to do. It's not okay for me to send a group of my biggest guy friends to go and rape him, but it's okay to kill him.
In self-defense, yes. Whatever
Now,
happens
it's
afterwards,
hypocritical.
hey, you
No.
shouldn't have done that in the first place.
That's
You
the
see what
answer to your question that you asked. Can you give me an example of being right or whatever? Yeah, we all agreed that you can kill somebody if they rape you, right? So that's the answer to your
You
question.
could. I mean, you could do a lot of things. You could take a water pistol and go to the supermarket. I mean, there's an infinite number of things you could do in response. I'm
But
just
not
saying.
with natural law.
Let me get to this.
No,
Can I read you the definition of, this is from dictionary.net pertaining to natural law. It states that killing another person is forbidden by natural law, no matter the circumstance, as it goes against the human purpose of life. Even if someone is, say, armed and breaking into another person's home, under natural law, the homeowner still does not have the right to kill that person in self-defense. It is in this way that natural law differs from actual law. That's for a legal definition. So
okay, well,
how are you
there's a lot of
defending
really
natural law?
but there's also a lot of really bunk legal definitions. I actually prefer the term consequentialism myself. But what I'm saying is, again, as simple as this: when you violate someone's consent, like, do you believe rights exist? Like, do you think rights exist, or it's just a free for all?
I believe that rights exist in theory, but they don't exist in nature.
So you don't think you have the right to defend yourself? It's just made up by man? You think man is the highest power in terms of deciding what's right and wrong?
Man is absolutely the highest and only power that can decide what is right and wrong in nature, and we agree upon that.
Well, how do you know that? I don't necessarily believe that. That also doesn't mean I appeal to God either.
I know, but that makes no sense. You just said that every living animal doesn't have what we have in regards to morality, but we do.
Right.
So it's unique to man. It's unique to humans. And the best possible explanation for that is because our brains are a little bit different than
because we
monkeys.
Understand that we've evolved. Okay, our brains have evolved differently. So what it is
Right.
that we understand the consequences of our own actions, and even back years ago,
there
were still
That's
times
my
when
point.
we didn't.
But what I'm saying is, you understand the consequences, which is why you avoid certain behaviors, because
But
you
the
know they're
consequences
wrong.
are typically because
Like,
we
why
know
don't
how
you
this
just
is
go
going to
around
affect
stealing?
somebody.
Why
We
don't
know
you
how
just
it's
go
going to
around
affect
stealing all
somebody.
the time?
We know how it's going to what.
The
Why don't you go?
consequence.
Hold on. Why don't you? Hang on one sec. Why don't you go steal every time you can get away with it?
Because I have my own values and principles, and so I choose not to do that.
So are your principles? Are they aligned? Hold on. But are your principles aligned with your conscience and what's right and wrong? That's why.
No, because I've been taught.
Why do people steal?
I wasn't taught.
Why do some people steal?
Usually due to the fact that they're oppressed and they don't have a lot of money, and they resort to it out of the oppression from government, which is a whole other topic I could go on and on about forever.
So you don't think rich people steal?
No, I think some of them do, and the reason I think that they do is because they're bored within their lives and they're looking for some type of other way to kind of like get like a thrill out of life. I was actually having this conversation.
They want to.
Yes.
So they do.
Right.
Or they
certain
do it
people,
to climb
yes.
the corporate
I'm
ladder.
asking, why don't you? There are other factors that come into play with things. You know what I mean? Things aren't that simple.
The variables.
But what I'm saying, right? There are in certain situations.
There's human variables.
Yeah, I agree. Their variables exist. Sure. I'm just saying that it's always wrong to rape someone.
Us human.
What's that?
The variables. That's what makes us human. Okay, the emotions, the opinion, the justifications, the validations,
and your
all
conscience,
of those subjective things.
And your conscience. Why do you think psychopaths are not looked at? Why do you think psychopaths?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Empathy is something that humans develop, and some people don't develop it, and that's what we call psychopaths.
Right. It's in like about 0.001% of the population, which is the whole.
I disagree with that. So.
That's type 1. There's different types of psychopathy. There's what's that? Because I've researched this quite a bit. Society definitely makes people into psychopaths. That's definitely true. But some people are born psychopathic. But I just want to get back to a point you were making earlier, because you said if it's all subjective and there's really no like right or wrong. So you don't see in the Halloween films, you don't see any difference between Michael Myers' character and Jamie Lee Curtis's character? You don't see a difference between those two?
I see your straw man that I never claimed.
Why is that a straw man?
Because you're saying, when you say, and it's not something I've said, that's the definition of a straw man.
Right. You're making
I didn't say that there is no right or wrong.
No, I'm asking you.
I'm claiming that morality is something we created. It's something that we determine if something is right or wrong based upon objective observations, but not objective truth. There's no truth
So
claim that
there's
it's
no objective
always
truth, you
this
said.
or
So there's
no,
no
that's not.
objective truth?
There's objectively true statements and objectively untrue statements. You claiming that there's an objective truth without demonstrating it is false.
Okay,
You have to demonstrate it.
objective truth. Gravity, objective truth. It's going to fall every time. That's objectively true. That's not my opinion. It doesn't matter. Now I could say, hold on. I can say that it's not, but it doesn't matter because I can align my perception and say subjectively, no, that's not true, and lie. But that would be being dishonest. It's always going to fall every time.
It's being dishonest because it's not objectively true. Gravity
Bingo! That's my point. That's all I've been saying. Correct.
No,
yes,
it's not what you're saying.
objectively
No.
true. Yes.
No.
How are you talking?
No,
yes, it is.
Listen. You're interrupting. No, it's not objectively true. That's what I said. It's not objectively true. As soon as you leave the Earth's atmosphere, gravity doesn't play by the laws of what happens.
How do you
Earth,
know?
So it's not.
How do you know?
Because I'm not a flat earther. We've left.
I'm not a
the
flat
Earth's
earther
atmosphere.
either. We don't know that though. You've never been there. I'm not a flat earther either. But no, you don't.
Absolutely. Then you don't understand gravity. Gravity is.
I wouldn't claim to understand gravity, no. But what I'm saying is because you don't have an experience it yourself, you don't know that for certain.
If
you might be right.
If you don't understand gravity, then why are you talking about it as objective truth and fact if you don't even understand it?
Because I could see, again, I don't know what takes place off of this planet. So to speak on behalf of what's going on in Venus, I can't do that.
But
how
other
can you
people do because I've seen other people in space.
How do you know that they're
floating around?
Well, how do you know that they're telling the truth? NASA's lied to us about all sorts of stuff.
How do I know you're telling me the truth?
About what?
About gravity and how it pertains to morality.
I'm using this as an example. This behavior is always the same. Always.
So the reason you don't rape is because when you drop this, it falls to the ground. Or is that
the reason I don't rape is because I would feel bad doing it because I would see the response from the person I was raping.
You just made the argument.
Yes, I'm using. You have to use your senses to understand. Like I'm not Helen Keller. Like I have to use the senses that I have. But just because I have senses doesn't mean reality and morality don't exist. That's the point. You can align your perception. Hold on.
We know they.
Hold on. You're interrupting me now. Hold on. Hang on. What I'm saying is you can align your perception with objective reality. And it's our job to do that to the best that we can. You understand? There are certain things that are objectively true, like this. This is always going to happen. Rape is always going to be wrong. It's not.
It's not always going to happen.
Can you give me a scenario where it won't?
Yeah, I mean, we could drop that into my pool in the backyard, and it's not going to sink like that. So, I mean,
not at the same speed, but it will. Not at the speed, but it will sink.
No, it'll float.
Yeah, well.
I got a pool. We can go test her out. No, it won't.
Let's do it. It's still going to sink. Maybe not at the same speed. I didn't say it falls at the same speed. We can get it to the 9/11 thing if you want. But that's the point. It's still going to fall. There are certain things you can put into play, but it is always going to happen. So my point is that because there are certain behaviors that are always wrong, it's our job to align our perception, and it is a perception, with those objective truths to get the best consequences. That's what I mean. Does that make sense?
No, because it's false what you said. So
you're using objective incorrectly. Though.
I'm not going to start with the premise that when you drop that, it will always fall because it's not objectively true. You don't know if it will happen in space. I happen to believe my eyes when I see people floating in space. I don't believe the Earth is flat. I do believe that we've been in space numerous times.
I'm not a flat earther. Why do you keep bringing it up? I don't think the Earth is flat.
We got a Tesla car floating out in space. So you need to say I'm right. You're wrong. I'm not
using NASA or any of these things to base my. I'm talking about NASA now. Well, what I'm saying is I'm not talking about space. I'm talking about here. Who knows what's out there? None of us know.
Right.
I don't believe NASA about a lot of their stuff.
So it's subjective to people. It's subjective to our planet. It's subjective to based on age. It's subjective to everything.
So if you objectively have a brain and I subjectively say no you don't, am I right?
No, you're wrong.
Right. The same thing with rape, and it applies to morals too.
Based upon your own
I said there are true and false statements. I didn't accept your premise that there are true and false moral imperatives that come from outer space or from God or from anything. That's
well,
a
I'm not
claim
really
you
sure.
have to
I'm not
back
really
up.
sure where they come from. I just understand that certain behaviors are always wrong to take, and because these
Okay.
behaviors are always wrong to take, that's what makes them objective. Now, I could lie to
But it's
myself and
always
everyone
wrong to
else and
kill
say it's
someone,
okay,
right?
like Sean Windingland or whatever example you want to use, but he's wrong. Why do you think?
I'll just use you. I'll just use your example. You said it's not always wrong to kill somebody because
Not in
there's
certain
justifications
situations.
for it.
Right.
Then you
Like,
got to throw out your argument because you just
absolutely
said
not.
it's always this and always that.
No,
and
absolutely
then you make
not.
exceptions.
No.
And then you make
It's okay.
exceptions.
Okay, so let me use the Michael Myers example again. In the Halloween films, right? Michael Myers is a bloody murderer. He walks around killing everybody, right? If somebody, Jamie Lee Curtis, for example, kills him in self-defense, is she the same thing as Michael Myers? You believe
No.
that?
Listen, no.
Then
we
morality
can
is
decide
objective.
that. We can
No, it
decide
isn't.
that.
That's not how brains should work properly.
You can't decide that because you're saying it's objective. So you're saying murder is either right or wrong. Killing somebody is right or wrong, right?
I'm
You don't
saying
just
killing
walk
someone in
outside and kill your
self-defense is
neighbor.
not the same thing as murdering them. That's what I'm
You
saying.
don't get that justification
But
with
it
objective
is if
morality.
it's
Why
objective,
not?
it's rooted in fact. Because
No,
the act is the same.
what happens might be the same, but the moral intent, again, we're talking about morality. The moral intent is not the same.
So
Michael
intent
Myers,
matters.
hold on, I'm sorry. That's actually the entire point of Halloween, Michael Myers. He represents and symbolizes evil, right? And he goes around and butchers everyone. If somebody ends up killing Michael Myers, if he actually can, by the end of the movie, do you think they have the same moral code that Michael Myers does? No, right?
No,
Because
I don't, because I believe in subjective morality.
Right.
And I think that the difference is between, I do believe there are exceptions
There
to
are
just about
justifications.
everything, because that's
So
what
give me
you're
an
doing.
Because
So
here's
give
the
me an
thing.
exception.
Well,
So do me a favor.
let me
Justify
finish
Michael
one
Myers.
sentence.
Sure.
Let me finish one sentence. Okay, here's
Sure.
what you're not getting that we're trying to explain is whenever you're saying that something is objective, you have decided it's either right or it's wrong. Taking
Yes,
a
who
life,
else would?
whether you're
You
taking
have
a
to do
life,
it yourself.
we're not using legalese, okay? So we're not using the legal terms as far as like manslaughter, premeditated, even though, let me tell you, every single one of those has the same end result, and that is taking a human life. So
Right.
you're saying
So you don't think it matters why a
decided,
life is taken? Like you don't. Just to be
no,
clear,
but if
We
you-
do think it matters.
it does matter.
Why
It
do you
does
think
matter,
that?
because
Why do you
using
think that?
your Jamie Lee
Why do you
Curtis and
think
Michael
that?
Myers thing,
Why do you
Jamie
think
Lee
that?
Curtis would be.
Okay,
Why do you
because
think?
This is crazy.
because we devise social constructs so that we can coexist with other people. I don't want to live in a world where somebody thinks that it's okay to walk in my house and shoot me in the head. That's logic. And logic comes from the brain, and it isn't based on anything external. It's just based on common sense, which is not something the universe gives me, but my brain saying it wants to keep.
Where do you think you got your brain from? Where do you think you got your brain from? You're not separate from the universe. You're part of the universe. You're part of this. You came from the universe. You're not the separate entity. You're the universe too. Right. So you're making it like I'm talking about some far out.
We are the moral agency of the universe, but it's not in the universe and anywhere but us, which makes it subjective by nature. We are the subjective moral
Listen, I
creators.
agree with you that our perception, like how we view things, it is our perception, right? But there are objective truths that exist that it's best that you align your behavior with those objective truths, or you'd be in the, let me say one more thing. Why do you think rights are called rights? Because they're based in rights behavior. That's why they're called rights. There is wrong behavior. There's not.
But it's still changing the subject.
We create language.
I'm not changing any subject.
We create language to describe things. Language doesn't give the universe its properties. We give language to things. Why do we call a dog a dog? Who knows? Who cares? It's just a word we put on it. It's not the magic thinking of like language creates reality and all that. It's not true. Or where did reality come from before we started?
Actually, hold on. Let me jump in here. That's actually absolutely not true. One of the reasons they take certain words out of the dictionary is because it does affect reality. That's one of the reasons. For example, when a dictator often takes over a new area, what they do is they strip that area of their language because it's easier to manipulate and control people when you get rid of certain words. That's like a known thing. Dictators do it all the time. All the time. Believe it or not, you believe it.
That's a non sequitur. It doesn't follow that doesn't mean anything. If you take away a person's language,
you just said language doesn't create reality. It absolutely does. That was a huge point. Actually,
No.
Okay, well, actually, hold on.
When I
Wait.
say tree, it doesn't create a tree. I'm describing the tree that's there.
Correct. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that language has a lot more power than you seem to want to give it for. George Carlin, for example, in one of his stand-ups, I think in the 80s, brings up how after the First World War, it was called the thing what the soldiers were experiencing was called shell shock. And then he changed it to battle fatigue, and then they changed it to and then they changed it to operational exhaustion, and then they changed it to post-traumatic stress disorder. And the reaction and behavior of these soldiers, they didn't get what they were given because of the language. So language is very important, actually. It's not something we should be dismissing. But like I said, again, regardless, I'm just trying to get the point across to you that there are certain things, the behaviors that are always wrong. Of course, our perception, is objective or is subjective, but you can view objective things.
We never agreed to your statement, and neither did you. So now why are we proceeding like it's fact?
Wait, what? What do you mean?
You never agreed that there's actions that are always wrong, other than rape. Let's just give you that one.
I think murder is always wrong.
Always wrong.
Murder theft. Theft is always wrong. How about that?
You don't think murder is always wrong?
I do think it is. I don't think killing in self-defense is murder. Yes, I do. Why do you think they have different words in court of law? Why do you think they use different words in court of law?
You're going back to legalese.
Words don't change actions.
He's going back to a higher authority.
If it's always, and I read you the definition.
What higher authority?
You just said it's always wrong. In court, in a world of court, murder is not murder. You're right. But here's the thing. The end result is still going to be the same damn thing. You're still taking a life.
Yes, I agree with you. But because of the initiation of violence and the theft of natural rights, it justifies it in certain scenarios. But that's why murder is murder and self-defense is self-defense. That's why words exist. Two different words exist to describe those things.
What about this argument? What about the argument that because we don't have rights, you don't have a right to kill me? It assumes less than assuming
I don't have a right to kill you. I don't have a right to kill you. That's the point. I don't.
Right. So you don't have a right. Then we can reach logical conclusions without appealing to rights. You have a right to be left alone is the same as saying I don't. You have a right to not be killed is the same as me saying I don't have a right to kill you. It's just the polar opposite with the exact same end game. So you're saying that rights exist.
Yes, the reason that rights exist in nature, like I stated before, I always use this example, the Second Amendment. I take that one personally. The reason you have a right to defend yourself is because you can, from observing things, you can see camouflage fangs, venom claws, stingers, etc. exist. Because you can observe and understand that these things exist, that means that you have a right to fight back if something attacks you.
Okay, first of all, there's this thing called the appeal to nature, which is a fallacy. You can't derive from it because it is. It's the rules of logic.
Why?
So if you want to be logic, because then I can say it's natural for people to die, so there's no harm in me killing you. It's natural for animals to kill each other, therefore it's natural for me to kill you.
So are you a nihilist? Are you a nihilist?
No.
Well, life is circular. The circle of life is circular.
Logic can't be circular. You can't justify a premise with the premise. You can't just say it is this way, so it is this way. The truth is the truth. That's not how people reach logical conclusions.
Right, which is exactly why I gave you the example of camouflage fangs, venom claws, and stingers. I just gave you like 6 examples of why you can see that there's maybe right's not the right word, the ability, if you prefer the word ability. If you want to use that, then fine. But the fact of the matter is that these things exist. So as far as I'm concerned, if something attacks me, I should be able to fight it back. What should I do? Not? Why? It's a natural reaction.
So you're taking things that you consider not moral agents, and you're taking their tools of predation that they use to kill other things and just declaring them tools of self-defense and then saying, I get my ability to reason or whatever from these things. It's not how your logic isn't following a pattern that I
Yes, it is. I just you just said to me that what's it called? I didn't give examples, but I gave multiple examples of how I came to that conclusion. I came to the conclusion that I have the right or ability or whatever word you'd like to defend myself because camouflage, fangs, venom claws, and stingers exist. The reason that I have the right to or ability to speak, whatever. Well, let me just say this. The reason I have the ability, like the First Amendment exists, is because it's not up to someone else to decide whether I can just talk or not. It's because I have a voice and I'm born with the ability to do so. If not, then who decides whether, these things are moral or not? A group of old men that I've never met?
We decide if things are moral or not together based upon how we feel about it together.
What if you were the last man on earth?
You weren't born with any of those tools that other animals were, and so that
Right.
to me is so. Then you don't have those things,
Right, but I have an upper.
argument.
But no, but I can because I have an upper brain, and human beings are known for building tools. You ever seen like 2001: A Space Odyssey? Yes, I'm for the brain. Like I'm with you. A brain is a good thing. I'm trying to use it. I'm just simply saying is that because I have the ability to do this, I can make weaponry and stuff. So anyway, listen. All right, so then we're just, I guess, not going to agree on this topic. Like we've been talking about this for a while now. Would you want to jump into one of the other ones because this just seems to be circular? You want to?
Sure.
What do you want to talk about? The Passio cult or the Darwin thing? You want to go with the Mark cult? Go with the Mark cult. Go with the Mark cult. Go ahead. Why do you think he's a cult leader?
All right. Well, I watched
listening.
a video I watched a video the other day of Mark where he was describing what cults were, and I couldn't help but notice that he changed the definition to basically, I think he knows he's a cult leader, and I think he knows that his people are his followers because he changed the definition of cult to including harm and taking out all the things that resembled what he's got going on. And then I saw him make a claim that when you can change language, that you can basically control people, right?
To some degree, yeah, I would say so, sure.
So he was controlling language to make people think cults are something other than his group of people. And he happened to include basically everybody on planet Earth except for people who adhere to what his doctrine is. So
okay, so what was the claim? What was the claim exactly? What was changed? What was the definition that was changed?
I don't know exactly what all he changed, but he said that there has to be harm involved, like it has to be like detrimental.
Let me just ask you, are you confusing the word cult with the word occult? Because those are two different things.
No.
Okay, so you don't know.
Mark actually has a number of videos where he calls people cult members a number. Like, for instance, do you eat meat?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mark Passio calls you a cult member, but you got real mad when I called you a cult member. He has a video called Meat Eaters or Cult Members.
Yes. Well, first off, I never said I agree with absolutely everything he says. What vegans use is the word carnism, and they claim that it's a religion. I would say it's a religion if you were to argue the fact that we have to eat meat, and because we've always eaten meat, that we should continue to eat meat, and there's no other reason. I could see that. You could kind of turn anything into a religion, though. Like, I don't see eating meat as a religion. It's just something human beings have always done. However, if somebody were to argue that we have to eat meat or or whatever, I could say that could become a religion. Yeah, like anything, though. Like I could say the same thing about veganism or virtually anything else. Like there are people that are religious about Nintendo. I actually hate Nintendo fanboys that only play Nintendo games. You see, I play a wide array of video games. I'm not religious about it. So I could agree with that there are definitely meat eaters that act religious about it. I mainly eat fish, though, personally. I like fish. But,
Me too.
okay, so, yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, so why else do you think he's a cult leader?
Okay, because the definition of cult applies to him and his group.
But you can say that about any group.
No, you can't.
No?
You can't. No, unfortunately, you can't. And you can never say that about individuals. You can never say that somebody who's advocating people to think for themselves, to not adhere to laws. One of the signs of a cult leader is
Mark always says that you should research all of this yourself and not believe him. He makes a point to say that all the time. All the time.
Okay. Then I suggest that his followers research the definition of a cult, and I will read it to you. It's a small group of people with novel beliefs, like the world is ran by shape-shifting reptilians, and we're being controlled.
I don't actually believe that. He doesn't actually teach that. Yeah.
Well, I just seen he was giving out stickers or something that said the world is ran by reptiles or something. I would.
He definitely didn't do that. That's like a David Icke thing. Although at the same time too, what's it called? Hey, do you not understand the reptile thing? Because I can actually explain that. And no, I don't necessarily think the planet is run by reptiles, but like there's actually a lot of interesting evidence which why those people do think that. As crazy as that might sound, I could go into depth if you want. It's pretty interesting, actually. Not interested?
I'm familiar with it. I've done my research. I reject the claim that the world is ran by reptiles. But
yeah, I don't think it is either. But you never know, you know.
but would you agree or disagree that his teachings are not something that, like, it's hidden knowledge, right? It's something that
well, no,
that's not common.
He actually regularly explains that it's not hidden knowledge. It's been occulted throughout history, which that's what like Freemasonry, Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism is. Like if you join a Freemasonic lodge, they'll eventually teach you about some of this information. This information is all for free on the internet. It's in books. It's all over the place. The problem is that the government and these people in power, social engineers, have an agenda to dissuade people from looking into this type of stuff. Kind of like how you just brought up the reptile thing and you didn't really want to hear about it. That would be like for example, when I heard about, wait a minute, it's run by reptiles, I was really interested to hear, why the hell do you think that? Because
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
I'm open-minded too. I've heard it.
Can you tell me a little bit about it? Can you tell me a little bit about it? What do you know about it? What do you know about it?
Can I talk?
Yeah.
Obviously, you believe that the world is ran by reptiles, or you wouldn't be arguing with me about it.
No. I'm trying to make the point that I don't think you've actually done the research. I think you're using that as a talking point, and I want to know how much you know about that. That way, I know that if you did your homework or not. I don't think the world is run by reptiles. No.
Well, do you want to talk about the Anunnaki, or do you want to talk? What do you want
I can talk all about them. I love the Anunnaki.
I know you can, but I know that we'll go off a lot of rabbit trails, and I want to stick.
But that gets into the occult, though. But okay, sure, okay.
Okay. I mean, the word occult has the word cult in it, right?
Right. So does culture, though. Culture, cult, right. Your cult.
Right.
That describes everyone alive.
Here's what my objective is as an anarchist, is that I want to present the most simple explanation that appeals to the most people so that we can do the most good for the world. And I don't think that what Mark Passio is doing resembles that at all. I think that if, the books and the videos that I've been recommended, they're 8 hours long, and I've seen a pile of books this tall, and I think nobody in the world who's a normal person is going to be persuaded by this or look into it. So we need a better thing, like, hey, do you want me to initiate force against you? No. Okay, I won't initiate force with you, and we will have a mutual agreement based on common sense alone. Yeah. So we don't need all of that.
Well, I think normal people are the problem, though. I think that's absolutely the problem is normal people. I think normal people are the reason everything sucks. I think that way too many people are just concerned with fitting in and just being like everyone else. And not enough people are able to entertain things like for example, if you told me like there really was a flying spaghetti monster out there and you were sincere and I took your word seriously, I'd look into it. I really would. I might not agree with you, but I'd at least look into it. I think most people laugh at the idea of like something like the Anunnaki or something like that. And I think there's an absolute boatload of evidence to almost prove it. You know what I mean? Now, again, I'm not telling you it's definitely true. But again, I believe it was Aristotle who said the measure of intelligence is to be able to entertain an idea without readily accepting or dismissing it. So I have a lot of information in my head that I just entertain. I don't necessarily believe or ascribe to. The same thing with like atheism. To me, that's just another religion. I don't know what's going on, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And I just entertain ideas. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't really specifically have a set thing that I absolutely like a religion. Like if evidence were to come out and to completely absolutely outright debunk the Anunnaki thing, I would just go with that. I just think from the evidence that I've researched, there's a lot of interesting, good evidence for that. So what I'm saying is, basically, in a nutshell, what I'm saying is, I think the problem is the general public who isn't looking, is just concerned with fitting in and being part of the flock, which I'm not. And if you've seen any of my videos, you can probably tell that. But in terms of Mark and his 8-hour lectures and stuff, you have to understand, there's a lot of information. Like, I like Mark and Larkin Rose a lot for different reasons. I think Larkin does a great job at what he does. I think he keeps it short, sweet, and he just stays at that boundary trying to get people into the anarchist community. And I think we absolutely need people like that. I consider Mark he's more of a researcher. So To me, he's somebody that is willing to go into these unpopular topics that people don't really want to discuss. And for someone who's been researching conspiracy theories since I was 19, that's one of the reasons I'm a fan of his, because he's willing to talk about things where most people would laugh at. And I don't think all of them are laughable, you know? So that's kind of why I'm a fan of his.
Okay, but he's teaching that his ideas are laws, right?
Which ideas?
All of them. The natural
No,
law.
that's absolutely not true. No. When he says natural law, he's just saying basically what I'm saying to you, which is something, again, I did not learn from him. I've understood since childhood that certain things are always wrong. It's always wrong to steal. Again, someone like Robin Hood, who the ruling elite stole from the public, he just took back what was everyone else's. I don't look at that as theft because it didn't belong to them in the first place. But if I broke into your house later tonight and stole your stuff, I'd be objectively wrong. You know, there's always another way I could, let's say, made money or get a job. The problem is people are always justifying immoral behavior. And again, they'll say that it's okay, but it isn't. Just like Sean Windingland. Like, well, you could say whatever you want, but it doesn't mean make that it true. Certain things are always wrong. Murder, rape, theft, which are really the same thing. It's all theft. When you kill someone, you've stolen their life. When you rape someone, you've stolen their ability to consent. It's just theft is what it comes down to. Are you a fan of George Carlin by any chance?
Yeah.
Do you ever see his stand-up on the Ten Commandments? Because he actually, that's what it's about. He breaks down how the Ten Commandments are really just the same thing. Don't steal. That's it. And in the end, he has an extra commandment to be funny, but he's trying to teach you natural law the same way. It's just the idea. Don't be dishonest. Don't steal. Even being dishonest, you're stealing someone's trust. That's it. That's natural law in a nutshell. Just don't be dishonest. That's it. That's all it is.
Well, you know, when the 10 Commandments were given out, one of them said, "Do not kill," right?
Yeah.
Well, as soon as Moses returned with the tablets, he found the people worshiping a golden calf, and he was instructed by God to kill everyone who was worshiping the calf. So, how do you reconcile that?
That's just that Bible story. Have you ever studied astrotheology by any chance? That's another subject I'm pretty big on.
What was that?
Have you studied astrotheology by any chance? Like I don't listen to the Bible or go by the Bible. I was just using that example of George Carlin. Like, I'm not like a Bible guy or anything like that. Never was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was just an example of him trying to explain how the 10 Commandments are really just the same thing. You know, don't steal, don't be dishonest. That's it. Because again, you can do whatever you want within the laws of nature. But again, certain behaviors are objectively wrong. That's the only point that I'm trying to convey. Being dishonest is always wrong. Always, you know?
No, being dishonest isn't all.
Give me a situation where it's not.
Okay, so we're talking about lying. Imagine if I was being drafted for war. And,
okay, stop right there. Bingo. Hold on. Bingo. Right. Against your will. Against your will. So they already broke natural law. They already broke it by forcing you with violence to do something. So then it doesn't matter because they initiated it. There you go. See?
That's
a perfect
logic.
example. So it's not. That's a perfectly flawless example of what I mean. They were dishonest. They were immoral. They are trying to force you with a death threat to go kill other people.
So you're saying when somebody does something wrong, that gives you a moral right to do something in retaliation, right?
Wait, say that again? I'm sorry. Just so you know, my phone battery's at like 10%, so this is probably going to go off soon. What I'm saying is, if someone, again, like the same thing with the rape thing, you can do whatever it takes up to get yourself out of that situation because they initiated and broke natural law by being dishonest. Someone drafting you, they're not asking you, they're telling you, hey, listen, if you don't go kill people for us, we're going to throw you in jail or kill you or whatever it takes. So right off the bat, they already were dishonest and broke natural law. So whatever happens after, hey, you shouldn't have did it. That's my point. That's why morality is objective. Because if people would stop doing dishonest, immoral things, the situations afterwards would never occur. It's who started it. It's who broke natural law. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, you believe in cause and effect, consequentialism, whatever you said. Okay, where did we come up with the concept of forgiveness?
Where did who come up with it?
Whoever you get your natural laws from.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean. Like again, yeah. So what are you asking me? Where do we come up with it?
I'm asking, say you punched me in the face, and I
Right.
had the moral right to punch you in the face back, but instead I said, this guy's probably got something going on in his life, and he's taking it out on me. I'm going to forgive
You have
him.
the right to do
Where
that,
did,
and I would say that makes you a pretty mature person, actually. Like for example,
based upon what?
I've had people fuck me over in life, and I just let it go. It happens all the time. My ex-girlfriend did me fucking dirty, bro. And I just let it go. I could run around. I could go after and look for her and do all sorts of stuff, but I'm just like, it's not worth it. It's my choice.
Wouldn't you say that forgiveness comes unnaturally to people, but it's moral?
No, I think forgiveness usually comes due to introspection and reflection upon like, is it worth it or not? You know what I mean? Like again, like I'm not like you could do whatever you want. If somebody, like let's say, God forbid, rape your sister or something like that, you could choose to forgive them. I don't know if you would or not, but that's on you. You know what I mean? You
So
know.
it's up to me whether I kill somebody or if I turn the other cheek. That's entirely my prerogative, right?
Yeah, again, you're going to say that's subjective, but that doesn't change the fact that they objectively wronged you in the first place, which led you to. Again, I agree subjective things exist. I'm not trying to say there's no subjectivity. I'm just saying that there are objective rules that are always wrong. And if you go against that, whatever happens, hey, you shouldn't have done that in the first place. That's been my entire point that I've always been saying. You see what I mean? Again, the example you gave about the draft, they're not asking, that's a threat. And any ticket, same thing. Any ticket that's given out is a potential death threat. That's not an opinion that can be proven. So right off the bat, they're breaking natural law by doing that. So that's why, like, if somebody does something in retaliation, someone writes you a ticket, hey, you shouldn't have threatened them in the first place. You know what I mean? Now,
Yep.
let's say they go after somebody who murdered someone or something like that. Well, then, hey, you broke natural law, and those are the consequences that you're going to suffer. Don't do it in the first place. That's why it's always wrong. Of course,
But
I have to again.
when you say natural law, you're literally just describing what humans agree with, and you're not giving any evidence at all that it's a part of nature, that nature wills that. You're not giving any supporting evidence other than, yeah, my brain says that's true. I like that idea. It makes sense. Of course
Well,
it does.
I've given you plenty of evidence. For example, like if I walk up to a woman on the street with a knife and she thinks I'm going to attack her, I'm going to get the same reaction from every woman. They're not going to like that every single time. It's objectively true. Try it as a social experiment. No, try it.
It only applies to subjective beings. It doesn't apply to anything in
Well, what's an
nature.
objective being? Can you define what an objective being is? What's an objective being?
It only applies to human beings who have subjective minds, who have feelings, who have preferences, who have thoughts. And that's why it's subjective, because that's the definition of subjective. And it eliminates objectivity as an option because objectivity only applies to facts.
Yes, but again, there are objective. See, this is what you don't seem to be getting. There are objective truths that exist that are always the same. They're just always the same. I understand I'm going to use my perception with subjectivity to align my perception with those objective truths. And that's how to be a good person. That's what I'm trying to explain. Use your conscience. You never answered why a conscience exists in the first place. You just asked me where it was from. Regardless of where it comes from, why do you think we even have a conscience? Why do you think a conscience exists?
Well, I believe that a conscience is your brain telling you what you think, and people have good consciences and bad consciences, and you can name the functions of your brain whatever you want, but you're not changing the fact that it is your brain doing all the work.
But I never said it wasn't your brain. I'm just saying that things take place in your brain. Sure, I'm not sure if it's solely your brain, but like I said, why do you think so many soldiers suffer PTSD and regret what they're doing in the first place? It's because their conscience came into play, even though they did what they did, and at the time they would have told you what they were doing is right, but eventually their conscience came into play. Why would we even have that ability if objectivity didn't exist? If objectivity didn't exist, there would be no need for a conscience in the first place. You see?
It defies the evolution of our brain to think that killing our own species is somehow advantageous either for ourselves or for others. It's nonsensical. So that causes a problem with our brain, which tries to make sense out of everything.
Right. That's the goal. My brain, I'm trying to make sense out of everything. And with my brain, I've come to understand that there's certain things that are always wrong, which would make them objective. Now, like I've stated over and over again, it's my job to use what, I guess if subjective is the word you want to use, to align my perception with those objective truths. That's what I mean. Like, I understand, like, I could choose to do whatever I want. But again, that's why you have a conscience. That's why you have these abilities to discern between right and wrong. I mean, it would just be a free-for-all. If there was no truth that existed, or there no objectivity, everything would just be an absolute free for all. You know what I mean? Like, the reason. No.
A lot of your arguments are the arguments that statists make, saying why we need government. Because if we didn't have government, people would just run around raping each other, or if everybody thought for them. Hold on. Okay. If everybody thought for themselves, that would be anarchy, wouldn't it?
No, but that's not the same thing. First off, a conscience is something that's built into you, or whatever you want to call it. It's not the same thing as government, which is an external monarchy. These aren't the same things. For example, doesn't your conscience tell you that government is immoral? You're an anarchist, right?
It didn't tell me that most of my life.
Because of why? Because of why? Because of the indoctrination and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and then I indoctrinated myself. And then I indoctrinated myself into the belief of anarchists when I listened to what anarchists had to say, and I said, yeah, that makes sense to me now. But I've held every political position you could imagine at some point in my life. Which time was I right?
Well, see, I actually haven't. I actually was never believed in government, even when I was a child. That has a lot more to do with my upbringing and stuff like that. But I never bought into the fucking nonsense. The fact of the matter is that, yeah.
Aren't you more likely to still be indoctrinated since you haven't changed your mind in your entire life about what seems like anything?
Well, I've changed my mind about certain things plenty of times. Like, for example, the first time I played Legend of Zelda, I remember thinking I was obsessed with Sonic 2, and I really had to admit to myself, oh my God, I like this better than Sonic 2, but it was like painful for me to do so. So I know what you're talking about in terms of ego and stuff like that. What I'm saying is basically is that, wait, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about, what was your question again? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I was daydreaming.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. You were saying, I indoctrinated myself. No. What I'm saying is the government, they need to indoctrinate people. That's why when you go into the police and military, they have boot camps and stuff like that. The reason they do that is because they have to beat the conscience, the moral compass for compassion out of you. That's why they do that. And again,
that's kind of how I feel when I'm trying to understand a very simple concept, and somebody sends me an 8-hour video and says, Mark says, and I have to go, like, do I really want to watch 8 hours of a guy talking? Or am I literally brainwashing myself? Am I being indoctrinated into something that somebody can't just say, here's a good argument? Like, it only took one question for me to become an anarchist when my brother asked me.
Which was what?
Oh, shit. I don't remember.
Oh. Well, it couldn't have been that simple of a question then. Well, the fact of the matter is, just because I mean, there are plenty of scientific lectures that are hours and hours long. Like, what does it matter if the guy puts on a long lecture or not? You know what I mean? Like, who cares?
Because I've watched entire videos of his where it was literally just basic psychological manipulation tactics, like saying,
like what video? Be specific.
I'm not a fanboy. I don't know what I don't really.
Well, I mean, you said you watched it recently. You can't even give me an example out of an 8-hour lecture. You can't even give me one example.
I can, but the cult.
All right, so give me one example. Or other, 8 hours.
The most dangerous cult or something. I don't know. I get them all confused. I'm not a fanboy, like I said. Do you want to hear what I derived from it or no?
Well, sure. I'm just wanting an example of what you're talking. I mean, like I said, you just said they're 8-hour lectures, and you recently watched them. You can't even give me one example. Like, all right, that seems a little far-fetched.
Well, I was going to give you an example, but I think you were asking for like a title or something for some reason. I'm not.
Okay, so what's the example? So give me the example.
Okay, well, when he's describing all of humanity as basically stupid and immoral, all of it, except for the people who adhere to his doctrine, which is a very small percentage of people. He's creating an us versus them mentality. And
Yeah,
I'm not. Yeah,
I could
so
agree
that's
with
a
that.
part of
But
being in a cult.
so is everyone that's an anarchist, because we are against the government. We are against the people. We're not those. I don't look at them as our enemies per se. Also, I will admit, Mark is very
No,
preachy. I could agree with
he's not.
that.
He's not just talking about people in government. He's talking about 100% of atheists are in a cult. 90% of Christians are in a cult, or are stupid and immoral. You know, he's taking every group there is, people who eat meat, anybody who's ever worked for the government, all these people, which happens to almost equate to all of humanity, is in a cult. So you literally have to believe that the only way to not be in a cult is to join Mark Passio's thing that's set up exactly like a cult.
But also, Mark's a huge fan of a lot of other people's he regularly talks about, like Michael Tessarion and John Anthony West and Robert Bouval. And, I could go on. And he tells people you should research these people. All he's trying to say is that basically, yes, the human race has been brainwashed by the ruling elite all over since the dawn of time. And I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with that. You wouldn't agree with that?
I think that Mark is censoring dissent because he doesn't want anybody to really question him. And you've told me he doesn't debate anybody. He blocks all of his YouTube comments. He's not somebody who's engaging in a dialogue.
Well, okay.
No, people have something to hide.
Right.
People,
hold on. Hold on.
Okay. The guy is trying to convince you that the world is controlled and that information is being censored. And when I go to look, I only see one person censoring information, and it's not YouTube, it's not the powers that be, it's Mark Passio is censoring people from being able to even say what they think on his stuff. You tell me why that is.
Yeah, absolutely. What's it called? Well, for one, he's not the only person that censors stuff. Lots of people censor stuff. But secondly, if you actually listen to his stuff and whatever, he explains regularly. He's not the type of person that's trying to reach the general public because he's angry and he's frustrated. So what he's trying to do is find people, someone maybe like you or someone like me, who already understands the principles of, I get it, but the principles of anarchism or whatever, and basically explain a lot of these deep-rooted occult information to us to go explain, because he knows he's not there for the general public. Also, one of the reasons he doesn't engage in YouTube comments is he's not the type of person that wants to sit there and argue. I don't really either. I mean, I entertain you more out of respect than I do most people. But if someone's just going to sit there and troll me, I might make a comment back or two and then just let it go. Because again, no one ever think about it. How long have you been arguing with people on Facebook? Have you ever changed anyone's mind through a text conversation? Honestly?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Really? Who?
Well, my mind was changed by arguing with people on Facebook about a lot of things,
though?
So I don't understand.
Because I remember the name of the person.
Myself. I can vouch for myself.
Okay. So with all the arguing that you've done with people, because you go into some really long-winded posts, have you ever got anybody to be like, hey, Ryan Rhine is right? And I haven't. I've done it better in live conversation like this, but that's why Mark puts on presentations. That's why he has 8-hour presentations, because he feels it's the best way for people to learn. And because, in that, for example, that cosmic abandonment video, because a lot of that information has been debunked by mainstream science, he's not interested in people that don't want this stuff to possibly be true, to just get in there and start fumbling up. He just wants to let people, hey, just take
there. I didn't hear nothing.
Phone call. But what I was saying is he puts up these lectures and stuff to let you decide whether you think it's true or not, and look into it yourself, as opposed to having trolls in the comments just be like, no, this isn't true. For a lot of people do that. It's not an uncommon thing. And because a lot of this information has essentially been debunked by mainstream, that's the thing. He just wants you to look into it yourself. It's not really that crazy. I don't think that makes him a cult leader. You think anybody that blocks anyone is a cult leader? I've blocked people. You think I'm a cult?
I don't know. You're cutting out a lot, but I think anybody who blocks everybody is trying to sell somebody some bullshit.
But he doesn't block everybody. I have like 1,000 mutual friends with him. He doesn't block everyone. He just blocked you because you came at him. Because of the way you came at him.
No, he blocks everybody on YouTube because he doesn't block his followers, or he wouldn't be a good cult leader. That's my point.
No, he blocks he blocks comments. Anybody could watch it.
Why?
Well, I just told you, because he doesn't want he wants people to make the decisions themselves without having people that take the cosmic abandonment video, right? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Take that cosmic abandonment video, right? That's the thing about the Anunnaki, right? Mainstream will debunk the shit out of that, right? But if you look into like Robert Bouval, John Anthony West, Brian Forrester, J.J. Ainsworth, and many other people, they'll tell you it's true. Now, the fact of the matter is, because mainstream isn't interested in that type of information, he doesn't want people that just don't even want to entertain this for a moment, kind of like you seemed earlier with the reptile thing, to just come and be like, oh, it's all bullshit. He just wants to let people make up their own minds for themselves. And I don't really see anything wrong with that. That's not personally how I do it. But again, he's not entitled to do that. Why not?
Because the truth doesn't blush. And if you have something true and you want to share it with the world, you don't censor the world from accessing it, and you don't make an us versus them, where it's 2% of the entire world versus everybody else, and they wind up thinking they're smarter than 98% of the world, and all these like elitist things that are, you know, signs that you're in a cult. You don't do that if you're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Do you consider Larkin Rose a cult leader too? Because I know he's blocked a few people. Do you consider Larkin a cult leader too? Well, I know a few people that Larkin Rose blocked. Do you consider him a cult leader too, or is it just
no? I don't consider blocking people. I think Larkin's proving that he's trying to get his message out to everyone in the world. I think that's the difference between Mark Passio and Larkin Rose, and a number of other differences.
But Mark is too. He posts these videos publicly. He just doesn't want people fighting in the comments. I was on a conference call because I'm one of the admins of one of his groups, and he was going off about all the infighting in one of his own groups about all this nonsense. It's just to avoid people bickering and fighting, and just let the video and the information let people decide based off of that. It's not really that complicated, and I kind of agree with it to some degree. Again, that might not be,
Maybe that's why the powers that be censor our information, just to keep us from bickering.
But that would be one of the arguments that they use. Actually, Metal Gear Solid 2 actually brought that up. Yeah.
But you recognize that government is a cult, right? The belief in government.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I guess we could use that word. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Sure.
Okay, so when I say Mark is a cult leader for doing the exact same thing the government does, where's the disconnect?
Because Mark isn't making violent threats if I don't listen to him, that's going to come to my house and take all of my stuff or anything like that. You know what I mean? So But he's just putting out information, and if you like it, great. If not, hey, don't worry about it. Like, here's what I would recommend that you do, right? Because again, like the way you initially interacted with the guy, clearly he's just going to be like, I don't have any time for this guy. If you made like a short video asking a few questions, make like a 1 minute long video asking him to address what you're saying, he probably would. But like, again, you came off condescending, saying he's in a cult, making a picture, tagging me, saying he's my handler. No, I mean, you did though. Like, why don't you try another way? You know, maybe that way. The guy, he's a pissed off, angry guy. What do you want me to tell you? You know what I mean? And that's how he comes off. So maybe he's not willing to entertain people he considers trolls. I mean, is that crazy? Doesn't seem that crazy to me.
No, but his method of using psychological manipulation is, I called him a cult leader because he is a cult leader.
What was the manipulation again? What was the manipulation?
Well, when he says that you're immoral if you don't agree with his opinion, and you're stupid if you don't agree with his opinion.
But a lot of people say that. You've said that too.
On natural law, if you don't believe that nature has a law, and by the way, when a leader of a cult says whatever he thinks, he calls it a law every time. Why is that? There is no evidence for natural law.
But that's the thing. He didn't make or coin the term natural law. It's an ancient thing.
He redefined it, because I read you what natural law was in the dictionary, and it wasn't anything. Just like when he just defined what a cult was, it wasn't anything like the dictionary definition.
Right. You know, dictionaries have different definitions, right? I grew up on Webster Street, so yeah. Okay, well there you go.
Right. And they all have Mark Passio's picture in them.
No, I didn't. I don't. Well, I'd like to see that. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, dictionaries. Oh, they have lots of definitions. Things get redefined over time. He also have said, and I personally don't really even like the term natural law. I prefer consequentialism, or I prefer cause and effect, because that's really all of it. All it is. The problem when you say natural law, people think you're talking about the Darwinian theory of evolution, which is not. So I actually think Mark should probably stop calling it natural law personally. But again, that's on his decision. And I don't think he's going to block me or anything for that either.
When it comes to morals, you can't actually follow laws and call yourself moral, because if you're doing something because it's a law, it's not coming from you or your heart. So,
yeah. No, that's the thing. I actually don't really like the term law either. You know what I mean? Because like I said, like the same thing with what we were talking about earlier. I don't think law is like the greatest word, because it gets confusing. I'm just saying, like I've said over and over again, there are certain behaviors that are always wrong. You want to call them laws? Great. I don't really care what you call them. I just recognize there are certain things that are always immoral, and I avoid doing those things. And that's all he's trying to say. And that's all a lot of us are trying to say, is that you should never rape people. You should never be dishonest. Do the best you can to avoid those things. That's really, you want his message simply, that's it. Just don't be a dick. You know what I mean? That's it. Again, people have trouble. People have trouble understanding. This is why he goes into such depth and detail in a lot of these presentations and stuff. So
hey,
again, sure.
Why exactly do I have to quit being a dick when Mark's 10 times the dick I am? I'm confused as to why I can't be a dick to the guy who's a dick to everybody.
Oh no, you absolutely can, and that's your right to do that. But it's also his right to block you. I agree.
Oh, I don't.
Absolutely.
I don't care that he blocked me, because I'm not his follower. I don't care what he has to say. I don't respect anything that he said. And I personally think
how do you know you don't respect? How do you know you don't respect anything you said if you've only listened to sound bites? You know what I mean? He said quite a bit.
Right. And I don't want to hear any more, because I'd rather live in a world with government where they're made of people who can be questioned than a world where anarchy takes over and everyone follows Mark Passio's law and nobody can question it because it's just the truth and that circular logic. You have terrible people doing terrible things when they believe they're doing the right things. And that's why being able to question humans is important, especially in an anarchist situation.
But it's not that you can't question him. It's just, like I said, the way you postulated the question to him probably turned the guy off. I haven't spoken to him since then, but when I do, he'll probably just be like, yeah, that guy's an asshole, didn't feel like entertaining, because of the way you presented yourself. If you presented yourself in a much more like, hey, I got a question about this, would you mind elaborating? He probably would have answered. You know what I mean? He's not a dick to me. You know?
I didn't ask any questions of Mark, and I don't have any questions of Mark because he's not an authority figure. He's
right. I never said that he was. I never said that he was. And also, he regularly also talks about how he doesn't want followers. He wants people he considers equals that understand moral behavior. And that's it. You know, if you listen to more.
I do understand moral behavior, and that's why I've made a very good case for moral behavior. And I can explain it without appealing to things that I can't demonstrate don't exist. And so that's why I think that we should stop.
What I said does exist, because if you take a blade and you walk up to anybody, you're going to get a reaction that they don't like that. Therefore, it's objective. That's proof. That's objective proof. Take a knife and approach somebody in. Really? You don't think so? Try as a social experiment.
No.
See what happens.
No, I understand your premise is flawed. If I walk up to somebody and they don't like it, that's the part that you're leaving out. They don't like it. That's why it's subjective.
Why don't they like it?
That morality pertains to what people like and dislike.
Why don't they like it?
Subjectively.
Why don't they like it?
Because pain hurts.
Because it makes them feel a certain way.
It makes them feel a certain way.
Now, is pain a positive or a negative thing?
Pain is a negative response.
Bingo.
That you
perceive
in your brain.
Right. That's fine that it's in your brain. You keep bringing it up. Right. Because pain is a negative response. Any action that goes against natural law will have negative consequences. That's why it's consequentialism or cause and effect. You just proved my point.
You don't stab
just proved my point.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. You totally did.
People get pleasure from raping. People get pleasure from that.
The rapist does. Yes, because the rapist isn't the one being harmed.
No,
what's that?
But you don't have to stab somebody, and they don't have to feel pain for them to still feel afraid. And fear is what drives people to react. And so that fear is a
Yes,
subjective.
fear is
I could not be
a
afraid of
negative
you, and somebody else
response.
could be. It's still
Right,
subjective.
fear is a negative response. That's my point. Because of the
But
negative,
it's a subjective response.
you could
It
say
pertains to your
anything is
brain.
subjective.
Yes.
You can say anything is subjective. The point is, if it's always a negative
Because it
response, it's subjective. Just the way 2 + 2 is objectively 4. If every
No,
time
no.
yes, if the response is
You
always
can walk
negative,
up to
it's
a
subjective.
250-pound guy. He won't be afraid of you. You walk
I
up
am
to me. I
250
might
pounds.
be because I'm half your size. It is subjective.
Wait, say that again.
You can walk up to a 250-pound guy that might not give a shit if you walk up to him, but you
Yeah.
can walk up to me and it might make the fear response a little bit stronger. Now,
Well,
see, there's a
why would you be
difference in
afraid?
humans.
Why would you be
There's
afraid?
not always going to be fear.
It doesn't matter because if it appeals to emotion, then it's subjective by definition.
Right.
The argument's over.
Yeah,
You
because
conceded.
they weren't. Yeah, I understand situations and certain things apply. Like for example, if I walked up to a 120-pound girl in a dark alley as opposed to walked up to a 300-pound weightlifter, I think my shit's gonna die.
It's
A
pretty damn
weightlifter.
subjective.
Yeah, in that situation, but I didn't threaten anybody.
No.
Just because, hold on. Just because the girl is paranoid that something bad might happen because she knows she's not able to defend herself, doesn't mean that's not immoral. That's just her situation. The action is what makes it immoral.
If
You
you
being
walk up on
paranoid,
me
I
too
mean, there are
fast in a
plenty of
dark alley,
paranoid
I can
people.
guarantee you I'm going to defend myself.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry,
here's
what was
the
that?
thing.
What was that?
I said, if a guy that's twice my size walks up to me in a dark alley, I can guarantee you they walk up too fast, I'm going to try and defend myself. And here's the
Right,
reason why.
and you should.
Because it's not paranoid. That's ruling out anybody's
Right.
actual
Well, what are
thought
you doing in a
process.
dark
That's
alley in the
ridiculous.
first place? See what are you doing? What's it called?
What
Reality.
did you just ask? What am I doing in a dark alley in the first place? My God, did you just use the rate validation thing? Are you kidding me? Now that is like the most
No, I
bullshit
didn't
response
say
I've
anything
ever heard
like
in my
that.
entire life.
No, hold on.
Yes,
No, I
you
didn't
did.
say.
What were you
No.
doing in a dark alley in the first place? That was
Yeah,
your response to that?
I would ask. What I'm saying is, I
Well,
would
what
ask
was she wearing whenever she
why
got
are you
raped?
yelling at me? Why are you yelling?
No, that is so crazy. That is the most ridiculous response I've ever heard.
No. Let me finish what I'm saying. What I mean is, like,
Ugh.
I'm not sure why you
I can't
ended up
even
in a
listen to
dark
this
alley in
shit.
the first place. I'm not saying it justifies anything. I'm just asking, like, maybe you shouldn't, like, find yourself in a weird situation like that. That way you don't get scared in the first place. I'm not justifying rape. Or is she mad at me? Like, I don't. What did I say that was so? What did I say that was so crazy?
I think you asked her what she was wearing.
I totally didn't. I didn't really see what. Well, all right. What I meant was in that situation. What's it called? Like, I wouldn't put myself in that situation in the first place. I'm not justifying that it's okay. I'm just saying that, like, you might wonder why you.
doing in a dark alley in the first place.
Hey,
Well, yeah.
Justin. Justin.
Sure.
Can you tell me what you think humans value more than their feelings?
What humans value more than their feelings? I don't know.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that. Well, all right. Yeah, I'll give you. You know what I value more than my own feelings? The continuation of it's almost dead. The continuation of human being success as a species, so we don't get taken out. Above my feelings, like someone who's not afraid of death, for example. I think they put that above their own feelings and stuff. So I guess that would be a good way to do it. Someone who goes against all odds to prove a point or something.
So that's how you feel about that?
Yeah, I guess I'd have to think more in depth about it, maybe, but on the fly, sure.
So I would say, as a statement of fact, that feelings are the most important thing human beings care about. There's nothing I can imagine that.
But that's just how you feel.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And it's just how all of us feel.
subjective.
And,
Right.
and that is
How are we
the
supposed to?
subjective
How are we
source.
supposed to figure things out without using our own senses? You have to use your
Conversation.
senses. What are
We do use
feelings?
our
Dude, but
senses.
you asked me, I mean, I just can't, I don't think that he's even capable of having a conversation because of the fact that he could say, what are you doing in a dark alley in the first place is literally the
Why did
most
she get-
ridiculous response
Why
I've
did
ever
she get
heard
so
for a
mad about
question.
that? Well, okay, just
Because
please,
it is such
well,
a
please don't
bullshit
yell at me.
response. That
Please,
literally
hold on,
validates
please
any
don't yell at me.
bad action.
Well, please don't yell at me. I wasn't justifying anything. I was just going to say, if you find yourself, you should probably not do your best to not find yourself in that situation in the first place. I wasn't trying to offend you or anything.
That that statement right there is ridiculous. You
It's
shouldn't find yourself in that.
no,
You
but
shouldn't
it's
put
like the
yourself in
same
that
thing.
bad
Like you shouldn't
situation.
get into a car with a drunk driver. Like why is
Oh
that so
my
offensive?
God.
Why is it so
No,
offensive?
absolutely. That is such a bullshit
You're
response.
telling somebody to
Why?
take responsibility.
Yeah.
You're telling me to take responsibility for somebody else's behavior, and that is bullshit.
No,
You take
no, I'm not.
responsibility
No,
for
no,
your own behavior,
I'm not
and that is
justifying.
it.
No, no, no. I'm not justifying what they're doing. I'm
Then you don't
simply
even
saying
ask
that,
that
like,
question.
because I'm trying to explain.
That's
You keep
not a
cutting.
question
You
that
keep
should be
cutting me
asked.
off.
What if somebody
But
has to walk home from work?
you keep cutting me off. Well, okay, I would.
Okay.
Instead. Well, okay, let me finish. I would say if you had to walk home from work, instead of going down the dark alley, I'd go around the next block. Why is that so offensive?
Great, and so would I. But what if somebody
there's a
else
rapist
doesn't have?
there?
Yeah. What if somebody walks out and just decides there's a girl
The
walking by
rapist is
herself?
always
Some
wrong. I'm
people
not
don't have
justifying
that.
the rapist is always wrong. I'm not justifying the rapist. I
Then
don't
you
understand.
never asked that question prior to. That's bullshit.
What do
That's
you-
like asking a girl that got raped, well, what were you wearing? Well, why were you there? That is a bullshit response, and it doesn't give
But that's not. But
responsibility
that's
to the
not what
people
I'm.
who
But that's
should
not what
have
I'm.
it.
But no. You're trying. That's not what I'm
That's
trying to
what's
say.
dangerous about your thoughts.
No.
Because
You're
if you can ask that
You
question,
won't even let me
then
talk.
you can say to a girl,
You won't even let me
well,
talk.
you don't
I'm
have
not
a self-defense
justifying it.
right
I'm
to
just
defend
simply
yourself from
saying that.
somebody raping you.
Listen, I'm just saying that. Listen, if there's a drunk driver, you probably shouldn't get in the car with them. It doesn't make it okay if they crash and you get hurt. Just the same way that if you walk down a dark alley and get raped, it's not. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying that you might want to avoid walking down dark alleys. You might want to avoid getting in cars with drunk drivers. That's not offensive. It
You
makes
might,
perfect
yeah.
sense. Right. That's
You
all I'm
might, but
saying.
this is where
That's
the
all.
problem lies
You're
with
like
your
yelling
argument.
at me. Like what? That's all I'm
You're not
saying.
letting me finish. The problem in your argument is that you might not want to do that, but on the off chance that you do have to, or that,
Why would
little
you
kids
have
have to
to?
live in a home.
What situation? Give me a
How do
situation
you
where you
know?
have to. Give me a
Little kids
situation you
have
have
to
to.
live in a home with a parent that abuses them. This shit
Been
happens. You
there.
don't ask, why were you there in the first place? You don't ask a teenager, why did you, do
I
this
left.
before you got attacked?
I left.
You're going to do that?
I left. I
You
did.
have?
I left.
So if they kill somebody after that, are you going to say, well, it was kind of your fault. You shouldn't have killed that person.
No, and I never was. I was never trying
That's
to say
not
that.
logical.
But I was never trying to say that. You're like harping on this point. All I'm saying is that again, if you see a dark alley, you should avoid it. I don't even know how we got into this. It was just like something I said. Like I'm
You
not.
brought it up.
Well, all right. Well, regardless,
Because
the
fear
point,
is a response.
the
Fear
point
is a
isn't
response that
the,
people
the
have,
point
and it's
isn't
subjective.
okay. The point isn't the dark alley. I'm just saying that you shouldn't rape people. It's wrong. However, if you can avoid putting yourself in a situation with rapists around, it would probably be best to avoid
How
that.
do you know? Do rapists wear a name tag? That is the dumbest response I've ever heard. I'm not joking. I cannot even stand when people use that as an excuse.
Why do you think dark alleys have a bad reputation?
You use the dark alley as a reference. I didn't.
Yes.
But when you say,
well, you're continuing to use it.
I'm telling you that how someone reacts to a situation, you're asking me, why am I getting mad? I'm getting mad because I've had an experience where I was out in public with friends, ended up getting raped, and your reaction to me telling you that would be, well, what were you doing there?
How are you going to
Rapists
tell me
don't
what my
wear a name
reaction
tag,
is? That's
dude.
absolutely horrible. No. That's not what I'm saying. Like, we've completely gone off topic. All I was trying to say, yeah, okay, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying if, you can avoid, again, getting in a car with a drunk driver or something like that, or walking down dark alleys that are notorious for being dangerous. Don't do it. I'm not justifying the action of the rapist. That's ridiculous. I think you're just using that to talk over me.
You take care of that. I can't.
This is why subjective morality matters, because it considers other people and it considers how other people feel, and you don't need more than that. That's all you need.
But name something that doesn't affect other people. Everything affects other people. No matter, every single action you take has some type of butterfly effect on someone else.
Yeah, because subjectivity matters, but objectively, your argument, it doesn't have any evidence, and
But
but
it does though. Camouflage fangs, venom claws, stingers. That's the fact that you have a conscience. No. That is yes, it is. Define evidence.
Evidence is you're a person and I'm a person, and because I recognize your face and mine, I have empathy for you.
Just the way I recognize camouflage fangs, venom claws, and stingers exist. I don't actually know you're a person. You could be a lizard. You may be unzip your. I don't believe that, But I'm just saying, like, I gave you multiple examples from
But
multiple angles. You totally
no, you
did.
didn't.
You're just saying that I didn't, subjectively. You see?
No,
The,
I gave you a response to everything you said because there was an explanation for all of your illustrations.
okay,
But what
well,
I'm
listen.
telling you is empathy is something that we either feel or we don't, and it's something that you teach or you don't learn. But that is what you call the conscious. It's conditioning, it's training, it's learning to recognize that other people have the value that you place on yourself.
Okay, well, listen, I got to wrap this up. I'll just end with this one last question for you, and then I got to go. My thing's going to die. If morality is subjective, wouldn't that be
Oh, God.
objectively true? Wouldn't it?
I'll let you.
Wouldn't
No,
it? No, then explain.
no.
If morality
Clay,
is subjective, wouldn't that objectively be true?
no,
Explain.
because you made a truth claim. Claims can be either true or false, but it doesn't pertain to
Yeah,
whether or not something is
yeah.
objective.
You're telling me that morality is subjective. Well, if you're right, wouldn't that be objectively true?
You're telling me subjectively what you believe, and you want me to tell you that it's true objectively.
No, no. You're telling me that morality is subjective. So if you're right, wouldn't that be objectively true? I should have just said this in the first place, but it's
No,
a really good
no,
question.
because no, because I've never used. I don't use